Welcome to another edition of AV Rant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H. This is AV Rant. It's your home theater and AV questions answered. Hopefully, my voice sounds a little bit better this week. And off we go.
Yes. Rob usually texts me about halfway through Mondays to let me know that he's ready and would like to know if I'm ready. And he did not do that today,
I
so
didn't do it. No.
there was the thought in my mind that I had made all the jokes about him dying of cancer, and then he did.
See, I thought you would see the Facebook post or the Twitter post or the notes post or something, but no. That's all right. If I know I need to text you, I'll text you.
You don't have to text me. I mean, I was getting ready anyways. That wasn't the point. The point was I thought karma had finally. Karma has caught up to me so many times, but I thought that karma had caught up to me again and in the worst possible way. So I'm glad you're alive.
Yes.
You're feeling better?
Feeling better, on the mend.
Yeah.
Got
you out?
A little bit of congestion, but I took a couple days off work at the beginning of my week.
So. Right, because you don't work a normal week.
That's right.
Okay.
Doing just fine. Thank you.
Good
Thank
to hear.
To all concerned.
Nobody ever expressed any concern to me, but no. I'm sure that somebody was concerned. Somebody's out there going,
I got a note of concern saying, I hope you feel better. I think that was Byron.
It wasn't for me.
Appreciate that.
I guess it
That's right.
should have been. Wasn't for me. No, I did Triumph this weekend. Triumph.
I don't know what that is.
It is thank you for asking. It is a ropes course, like an obstacle course in trees, like high up in trees. And the harder it gets, the higher you are.
Okay.
So as you ascend, it gets higher and harder. And you got safety harnesses and all this stuff. But
sure.
Did it with my sons who were in the Boy Scouts. And of course, it was the coldest day of the year to date. And also raining.
Coldest day in Florida, so it was what, like 68?
I think it was in the 50s. No, I think it probably was in the 60s. It wasn't that cold. It was actually fine. It wasn't really that raining until we got to the very highest point when it was the very hardest, and then it was coming down. And the only time any of us really got cold is when we were waiting in line for the final zip line. At that point, I was just over the whole thing. So, but it was fun. I had a good time. I rock climb, so it was fairly easy for me. There was a bunch of adults I saw go up to the final. There's like 5 routes, right? And the first one's 1 through 5, and then they get harder, progressively harder. And the 5th one was hard. I didn't think any of the other ones were, but it was not easy. But I was the only adult that I saw that got across it, and all the kids I saw getting across it were basically sitting in their harnesses and just kind of pulling themselves along by the obstacles rather than actually overcoming the obstacles.
So you triumphed over the triumph.
I did.
Yeah,
I did. So that felt good.
That pun was necessary. Had to be done.
It had to be done.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for. AV advice and horribly bad puns. Mm-hmm. This is AV Rant, the podcast that answers your home theater and AV questions. To get your questions answered, all you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. Leave us a comment at www.avrant.com. Facebook.com/AVRant Podcast. YouTube.com/C/AVRant. You can contact us directly, Rob at AVRant.com. Twitter is at First Reflect. I'm Tom at AVRant.com. My Twitter is at AVRant_Tom. We have a producer. His name is Austin. He helps go through the question list and put together questions for us. He does sometimes. It depends on how much video he's doing.
Yeah, he did this week. So I must assume that the video has progressed because he
to the point where he feels like, yeah, that's good. That's good. We want him to work on both. And if one suffers, then because the other one's taking more time, that's just the way things are. Mm-hmm. So we love Austin. He is great. And he has his own podcast. It's the We Watch Movies podcast, a podcast about, it's about so many things, to be honest with you. It's about so very many things. But the thing
I think it's about vamping. That's what I think it's about.
It could be. It could be. It's an improv podcast where they take the titles of movies and they act them out. They put on a skit, like an audio skit, complete with sound effects. Like they have all that old timey stuff that used to keep in radios, to close doors and shoes and chains and stuff, and
the real time Foley effects.
That's what it is. That they are Foley artists.
Okay,
is what they are.
That could be fun.
And it's all impromptu.
I
changed my lighting. Does it look different?
I don't know. You got a white shirt, so that throws everything off.
It does.
Yeah.
It actually usually makes things better when I wear the black shirt. The camera does not know what to do with itself. It's like,
but it is our AV Rant white shirt.
That is true. See, got the AV Rant logo. It's got the logo on the back, and it's going to stain right here where I drop some mustard on it. So I wear it all the time. So, and if you want to contact Austin directly, other than the question at avrant.com, which he does monitor, you can reach him at Austin, TEN Pond is his name, and his Twitter handle, TEN instead of TIN, which is how I spell it every single time. I had a really good one for today's Austin thing, and I totally forgot it.
You'll get it for next week.
I had it. It was right there. I was like, oh, that's going to be a good one. And then I forgot.
All right. I'm champing at the bit. We got so many questions.
I don't care. We're going to go. Again, I know you guys must be sick to death of hearing this, and I'm sorry, but we record these at 9 p.m. on Monday nights. And Monday's like the world's longest day for us because we have so many kids stuff. And then usually we're taking care of all the things we didn't get done on the weekends. And Christmas is coming, and it's like, I've had 55 seconds in the last 2 weeks to talk to my wife about anything at all, much less Christmas. So we're just burning the candle at both ends. So I'm trying. But we like we do every time. We'll start off with our thanking our listeners of the week. Our first listeners of the week, we want to thank. They went to www.avrant.com, clicked on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link where they can leave us a PayPal donation. PayPal takes your credit card information, gives us the money, takes their cut out. And we want to thank once again, 2 weeks running, Tyson. So thank you, Tyson, for being our listener of the week on PayPal.
Yeah, I want to thank Tyson. I don't know. We've had multiple Tysons writing to us, so it's possible it was different Tysons last week.
I don't think so.
Or very possible it's the same Tyson.
Hold on.
Oh, okay. You can see the last name, then we know it's the same. Thank you, Tyson, regardless. Yes.
Hold on a second. You go on with the other part. I'm going to look up, make sure this is the right same Tyson.
So we also want to thank our Patreon patrons. If you go over to patreon.com/AVRant Podcast, you can sign up for a recurring monthly donation to the podcast. Minimum amount is $1 per month. We got a whole Patreon news update thing we got to dig into, but yeah, we got 39 patrons right now. That's up from 36 last week. And in particular, Barry, Carl, and Weldon mentioned that they are patrons. Somebody asked, like, why don't you read out everybody's name? And it's because we don't actually see everybody's name. I think there's like a threshold because one time you got an alert that somebody said a donation, but that was like the highest donation we ever got.
I don't know. Every once in a while I get alerts, and sometimes I don't get alerts. It's sort of a thing. It is the same Tyson, unless it's the guy that has the exact same letter last name. It's impossible. It's a different dude.
Regardless, if you are a patron and you want to hear your name, just let us know. Let us know you're a patron. We'll say your name on the podcast. Simple as that.
Yes. Honestly, I think I could probably go look it up and try to figure it out. But the reality is, if you really want your name said, just let us know. It's an email from you, and it gives us sort of permission to say your name, which I guess I don't necessarily need, but I kind of prefer it. I kind of prefer you telling me, hey, you know what? I'm a patron. I don't mind you mentioning it. There we go. I'll mention it to you. I also thought of giving the list to Austin or Rob and having a flash up a thing at the end of the video or something like that, but whatever. It's not that big of a deal.
Too much work.
Thank you, all of our patrons. So we really do appreciate it. That money from them and from our PayPal donations goes into our coffers to help pay for all the stuffs, the hosting and the equipment and the occasional programs that we have to buy to make this podcast work when something stops working, like Minicam. Yeah. So all of that. One of these days, I'm going to have to buy Reaper. I mean, the guilt will get me eventually.
Yeah, you've been evaluating now for half a year. So.
6 months now. There's somebody over at Reaper whose job should be just to send you an email with their face, with the disapproving look on their face, like, really? Still evaluating? Really? And then I would totally do it. But anyways, I will buy that pot. I think it's a $50 program too. So we also want to thank our other listeners who have supported us in other non-financial ways. We want to thank Greg. He bought a pair of Focal Superbirds from Accessories for Less on a recommendation. He loves them. And he let Accessories for Less know that he heard about them from us. And Tyson, this is the same Tyson, wrote to HSU, or she, I think that's how you say it, to let them know that we recommended them to him.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that means he purchased them or not, but thank you, Greg, and thank you, Tyson.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Tyson. We appreciate you letting retailers and brands know that we're sending you their way. Yeah,
All
that's
right.
the right pronouns.
Yeah, it sounds right. So in the news, Patreon has changed, and this has been all over the internet, so
Yeah.
you've probably heard of this, but this is the breakdown, okay? Their fee structure is changing. What does it mean? It means they get more money, generally speaking. Well, they definitely get more money. Sometimes you're paying more than you donated. And you should know this because you're donating to this podcast. I don't want you to think that we have anything to do with this. So this is going to start December 18th, which is in a week from when we're recording this. This especially affects those who donate small dollar amounts per month. Before, if you pledged $1 a month, you were charged $1 a month, and all the fees were taken out of that dollar, typically leaving about 75 cents to maybe 85 cents for us. But Patreon is now going to be charging 35 cents for each and every transaction as a processing fee. Plus, they're going to charge 2.9%, and all of that's going to be charged to the patron, not to us, to you. Meaning that $1 per month pledge just turned to $1.38 charge. Patreon is still taking 5% from us as well. So we're not going to get 95 cents. So what does that mean? You donated $1, you're going to get charged $1.38.
Yeah.
Before you were donating $1, you were being charged $1, and we were getting 75 cents. Now you're going to be getting $1.38, and we're going to get 95 cents. So we get more. Patreon gets more. You get charged more, which is not what if they had given me the option.
Yeah,
I would have said
anybody who is receiving donations from Patreon, nobody wants this. Nobody. No. Like, look, if you're donating $100 a month to somebody, an extra 35 cents probably isn't going to turn you away. But if you're donating $1 or $2, a 35-cent charge on top of that to you, the donor, that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
that's insane. So I mean, people are making a fuss about this. Hopefully Patreon will respond the way they ought to. I mean, even if they need, like I was just saying to Tom before the podcast, like, if you go to the corner store and you buy something small with a credit card, a lot of places will be like, we got to charge you 25 cents as a processing fee because that's what Visa or MasterCard charges us. And it's like, okay, that's part of the deal. Now, I get that. Maybe that's happening to Patreon. They're like, we got gazillions of $1 a month charges. Visa's charging us whatever, or MasterCard or Amex or whatever's charging us. So we have to pass that on to somebody. It's like, okay, so why don't you just create a thing where you go, if you want to donate $1 a month, we're going to charge you semi-annually or annually so that we're not getting dinged 25 cents every single month for $1 charge. Like, do something smarter than this. This is ridiculous. So I'm not happy about it. Let Patreon know. Yeah.
Yes, you guys let Patreon know, because certainly from our end, I'm not interested in you guys being charged anything more than what you have. And if that means we get less, I'm okay with that too. That's fine for me. That doesn't bother me one iota. This is a way of supporting the podcast. The monies that we get are getting to the point now where we're starting to break even, which is great, because for 10 years I've been paying for this podcast. Has been a labor of love and financial support from me, and on a certain extent on Clint DeBoer. So obviously Rob's time is worth something, so is Austin's, and so is mine. So all of those things we are putting into this for free. We don't mind doing that. We don't mind, but we certainly don't want you to get turned away from supporting the podcast in whatever way you want to, because that you can always take that $1 a month and just give us $1 a month on PayPal. You can do it that way too. That's another way of getting around this.
Absolutely.
And I'm okay with that. But that's just more work on your part. Patreon just makes it really easy for you.
Yeah.
But now they're taking advantage, I think. And I do think they should be called on that, and I think it should be changed. So we'll see what happens. They got a week to fix it. And hopefully by the time you're listening to this podcast, which will be on Friday, hopefully, if I remember to put it up on time, this will be gone. This will be a non-issue, in which case, yay. Let's go on. So if you're interested in the PlayStation VR, Sony is currently taking $100 off all bundle prices between December 10th and 24th. In particular, the Gran Turismo Sport bundle is down to $200. That includes the VR headset, the camera, and the game. The PlayStation Move controllers would have to be purchased separately, and it always scares me whenever they start discounting these things, because it usually is a sign that we are no longer going to support this. Now, that may not be the case.
It seems to be what you would hope, which is that it's a push, because they've put quite a bit of effort behind PlayStation VR this year. They brought out quite a few games. They've made a push to support it. So this is like, let's just get the hardware into people's hands, and then hopefully it'll blossom from there. So
I was at Best Buy today because I was buying my wife a Christmas present. And I know I was buying my wife a Christmas present at Best Buy. it almost just it feels alien to say that, but there is something that she wanted at Best Buy. I'm not gonna say it because she might be on the other end of that door. So we'll talk about it at a later date. Or even later in this podcast would be fine when I know she's asleep. But there was I think it was PlayStation VR. It might not have been. It could have been something else. But there was a VR setup there, and they were trying to select a game for the guy, whoever was going to try it, and that sort of thing. And the girl was talking about it, and I'm like, this is not the way to sell this. You don't sell this by sitting there with the controller and trying to pick there was this really cool one, but we don't have it anymore that did this and blah, blah. I'm like, just pick one and put the thing on his head and see how he likes it. That's sort of, and it was kind of out in the middle of the floor, and it was very loud out there. I just, I don't know. I would love to give it a try. I would be happy to give it a try, but I'm still a little skeptical.
No, lowering the price helps.
That does. tvOS 11.2 for the Apple TV 4K is out, and they've added a match content settings option within the video and audio settings menu. You can individually select to match the original dynamic range and the original frame rate of the content, rather than everything being converted to HDR and one frame rate, which was originally the case with the Apple TV 4K. Now, that's not the case anymore, they say, but there's one catch. If you select Enable HDR or Enable Dolby Vision at the top of the video settings menu, everything that isn't explicitly HDR, like games, menus, some of the streaming content, will still get converted and displayed as HDR. You have to manually set your default option format as 4K SDR, then activate the match content setting. That should make everything look the way it ought to.
So highly unintuitive, but we wanted to let that news out there because some people are like, okay, I got this thing. It automatically set itself to 4K HDR, but I set match content, but some stuff that shouldn't be HDR is still HDR. It's like, you have to manually set it to 4K SDR as the default output, and then when you select match content, if it's supposed to be HDR, it'll activate HDR. It's a bit of a mess, but at least it can be done for those of us who care about our content actually being displayed the way the content is encoded, rather than everything being changed and transcoded and weird stuff. At least it can be done. So there, good news.
Yeah, somebody's listening. Boy, it took them what, like a couple of weeks to figure this out?
A month or so. Yeah, it was only about a month.
Yeah. How long have you been waiting for Microsoft to do that with the Xbox?
Yeah.
Still waiting? Are we still waiting? I think we're still waiting.
7.1 audio, even if it originated as 2-channel. Off you go. Yeah.
God, why would I want my AV receiver to take 2-channel and split it out into whatever I want it to be? Why would I want that? Clearly, what I want is for you to send me 7.1, no matter what the content is originally encoded in. Clearly. My favorite is when you come across the odd Netflix show that's actually in mono and it only comes out the center channel. That's happened to me before. All right, the huge rumor in Hollywood is that Disney is close to buying 21st Century Fox. The deal would appear to include Disney taking ownership of all Fox movie studios, Fox Sports, and Fox shares in Hulu. Disney already plans to launch their own TV and movie streaming service, as well as separate ESPN sports streaming service. So this acquisition would greatly increase their content for both streaming services. Fox News and all of News Corp would still belong to Rupert Murdoch, though. So there's that, which would mean that might be theoretically possible that we'll see like the Fantastic Four and all that stuff.
That's right. So Fox has the rights to the Fantastic Four, to the X-Men, all of the X-Men. Right. So if you're thinking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, yes, this is one way to bring all of those properties and fold them back into the MCU. They also, Fox also owns Avatar. That's their property. And Disney is already pouring tons of money into building Avatar things within their Disney theme parks. So that kind of brings all of that under one of Fox owns the Alien franchise.
I do not love the idea of there being Disney owning like everything in the whole universe.
I know. This would finally, I still don't know how they aren't already, but this would finally make them the largest Hollywood studio. I have no idea how Warner Brothers is still larger than Disney at this point, but apparently they are. This would finally make them the largest. I also did like the joke that because they would own the Alien franchise, all of the xenomorphs that were born from the Alien Queen are now Disney princesses.
That is true.
That's funny. I like that.
Unless they're all male.
Wolverine versus Hulk. What more could you want?
I'm sorry. Wolverine versus Hulk is a very short fight. I don't care what they've said in the comic books. That is a very short fight. I mean, Wolverine might not be dead, but come on, dude. That guy's it's like that Loki part in the first Avengers movie over and over and over again until the Wolverine finally says, all right, I give up. I give up. Stop, dude. It hurts.
And actually, my main reasons why I wouldn't mind if this happened is, one, Fox is the only studio that hasn't committed to supporting Dolby Vision on the home releases, and Disney has. So if Fox becomes part of Disney, maybe we'll finally have all the Hollywood studios supporting Dolby Vision at home. That would be nice. And most of all, what I really want to happen is I want that Fox fanfare back at the beginning of Star Wars movies. To me, that's part of the Star Wars movies, is the Fox fanfare at the beginning. So I want that back.
That one right there?
Yep,
no.
The trumpets.
The trumpets. That's Fox?
That's Fox. That was Fox. So we don't
21st Century Fox. That's right. That's right. Yeah. That's right.
So I want that back. So bring it back. Put it back in.
It seems very random. But I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but at the same time, I don't know. This seems like whatever. Fine. I give up. And also in news, by this time next week, I should have Dolby Atmos set up and working in here, because the couch is coming on Sunday. So I have to get it working before that, because after that, I'm not going to be drilling any more holes and standing on furniture to get things to work. Some comments real quick. If you want to feel room pressurization, Terry, our listener, suggests playing the movie Lucy. The opening scenes include a low tone, which is repeated throughout the rest of the movie in places that Terry has found really pressurized his theater. Right. Carl's wife is a director at a school of architecture. She heard Rob. She literally heard you. Like, heard you?
Yep. He was playing the podcast out loud. She could hear the podcast.
I mean, was she actively listening? This is my question, because I read this.
No, because you'll
but anyways, she heard Rob commenting on how strange it is that the plans for the HVAC ducts and plumbing pipes don't seem to be part of the architectural plans, and that lit her up. Okay, she says including those plans is definitely part of every architect's job. If they didn't do it, that would be extremely worrisome, as it could affect the structural integrity of the entire building. She did comment, though, that a disconnect, like having pipes running below ceiling joists, can come from pre-designed projects that are modified. So the cost of running the pipes or ducts elsewhere can result in leaving them where they were in the original plans, but the modifications create the need for bulkheads or soffits that weren't in the original plans. So if you took a building like a model home and said, yeah, but I want this. That's what could cause this.
Which could explain it. Like, this came up when we were talking about a house where they paid extra to have 10-foot ceilings in the basement. Now, maybe it wasn't an existing plan, but then they expanded the height of the basement. But then they're like, well, the pipes were supposed to go in the ceiling here, and you just made the ceiling taller. So now the pipes are below your new extended ceiling, where they would have been originally hidden. Now they're exposed. So it could be that sort of thing. And I will say, my comment was coming from mostly watching like lots of renovation and home improvement shows and that type of thing. So in those cases, it is mostly renovations. When I think back on it, I'm like, okay, those were a lot of renos where that was happening. So it makes sense now. Code have changed, or they're upgrading something, or they're beefing up the HVAC system or something like that, which results in it being exposed where it wasn't in the original plan. So, all right, my bad. Good to know. Yeah.
I thought I was the one that said something about that, but maybe it was you. So whatever. It doesn't make a difference. Either way, it happened. Brian, let's get through these questions here, because we got a lot of them. Brian has been listening to AV Rant for many years, and now he's getting to build his first dedicated theater. He's excited to put our advice and his ideas into practice. The room is 18 by 11 by 10 with a 1-foot soffit going all around the perimeter of the ceiling, and an alcove at the back that he plans to house his equipment and his projector. He wants 5.2.4. And he wants to stretch every penny while getting the very best audio and video that he can afford. All right, well, that's what we do around here. So here we go. Got some pictures here. You can see the soffit. Soffit's nice. That's fine. I like soffits. Wow, that's great. Good soffit. Nice soffit. And then there's the thing at the back there, and it looks like he's got some wires coming out of the front wall where he's planning on putting the speakers there, I would imagine. And there's a bunch of wires at the back where he's planning on hooking everything up. And the hole at the top there, which is apparently for the projector. And you can see the side walls where there's holes for all of that. So good. So 16 gauge speaker wire has been run inside the walls. The front, left, right are 4 feet high. The center is 1 foot high. The surrounds are 5 feet high. And the 4 Atmos speakers are in the soffit around the 5 feet in front and 4 feet behind where the primary seat will be. The subwoofer outputs have been run to the front right corner and the rear left corner. Anything that we think should be changed? Nope. I mean, that seems a little low for the center channel, to be honest with you.
But it's going below a projector screen, so that's
yeah, I mean,
fine.
That's fine.
Yep. The 4 feet high, I mean, this is just where the speaker wire is, so there's still plenty of latitude as far as the actual height of the speaker itself, so that's totally fine. Now, having all of the Atmos speakers in the soffit, now I have no objections to that. Yeah, but this is a pretty narrow. It's a pretty narrow room.
Yeah.
So
it makes it almost like an Oro 3D setup, really. A
little bit, yeah. But I have no objections to that. But I would say that is an instance where if they're actually going to be in ceiling Atmos speakers, in this case inside your soffit, I wouldn't object to them being the angled type.
Right.
The ones that include a 15 or a 20 degree angle built into them,
right.
Or something like the Focal birds where you can aim them. That would make sense to me in this instance because they're wider and lower, so you need a little bit of that angle possibly. That normally I say just go for the ones that fire straight down. This would be an instance where ones that have that built-in angle would make sense to me. So but that's about it. Other than that, the placement seems fine to me.
In the rear left corner, you can see, I can't see clearly, but it looks like he's got a run for the speaker wire and a run for power. In the front right corner, I don't necessarily see. I see one outlet thingy down there. So make sure you have power for your subwoofer in the front right corner. That's the only other thing I see. And the projector looks like there's a hole there, and it looks like there may be an outlet right there anyhow.
Yeah,
if that is an actual outlet, that could be problematic. You want to have some sort of battery backup on there. So hopefully what that is something that just runs the Romex down the wall to where the rest of your gear is going to be, where you can plug in your battery backup. If not, then you could put a battery backup up there with a small one, something like that. So the projector will go on the back wall inside the alcove, most likely on the shelf. The lens should end up being about 6.5 feet off the ground. He's planning on one row of seats. Anything up at all about that plan he should be concerned about? How big is 18 feet? 18
feet, yeah. Front to back.
Yeah.
I mean, when you stand up, you're probably going to end up in the light path. But as long as
that happens, that's going to happen anyways. Yeah,
that is pretty much going to happen. And because it is sort of this alcove where the ceiling of the alcove is considerably lower, it's basically mounting the projector about as high up as it can be. It should be okay. Where he's planned to mount his screen up front, he's mounting it fairly high. He's got it fairly high up. So yeah, that should be fine. Yeah, when you stand up, you'll probably see the shadow of your head, but that's about it.
I mean, I understand he's got this alcove and he wants to use it and all that, but he could actually take and put the shelf on the wall just outside the alcove.
That's right. Yeah, if something goes awry and it ends up being too low, you do have that option. Yeah, for sure.
Just drill a hole right in that thing, man. Just set those wires straight across the top. Just drill a hole straight into that thing and go straight through. Not a big deal there. And then you could put higher, and you have some other options. That was 2, right? C, as mentioned, all the equipment will also be in that real alcove. What should he use for power protection? He shouldn't need any fancy wiring for the projector if they're both in that rear alcove, right? I mean, it depends. It looks like you have an outlet there. If you have an outlet there, then that's not going to work. But if you're just going to drop the power cord straight down the wall and go into your power protection, those, frankly, I've never seen a projector power cord that was very long. I mean, they're usually meant to be right there. So you may have to buy an aftermarket one or just
an extension cord.
Just an extension cord to get it all the way down there. But other than that, no. If you want a nice clean look back there, which doesn't sound like you do, if you want a nice clean look back there, then you'll need something to run it within the wall. But if you're not going to do that, then there's no problem with that.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't make any great pains about it. And maybe it's as simple as if you have like some shelves that are holding your equipment, you put the power protection device on the top of the shelves, and therefore it's closer to the projector, and maybe that'll be enough. Could be as simple as that. No worries about that. I would recommend to you that you get an APC J25B. That is a nice battery backup unit with all the protection for your power. You want to have that battery backup. I definitely want you to have a battery backup to protect your projector's bulb. If you're watching and you get a blackout, that'll keep the projector running long enough for you to turn it off properly, and the full cooling cycle and the cooling fans continue to run as they should. So battery backup's important, and that's a reasonably priced, nice battery life, all the protection you could need, APC J25.
So the room will be carpeted, but he hasn't settled on any acoustic treatments beyond that. No plans for the screen to be acoustically transparent. Should he just put a couple of panels on each sidewall, or do we think he needs more coverage than that? And if so, where should he install it? It's the same place as we always say. Couple on the back wall, couple at the first reflection points. If you can get one on your ceiling at the reflection points there, which I don't think you will, and that's okay. And then I'd be honest with you, I like 8 panels.
Yep, that often works. Yep.
2 on the front wall right behind your speakers, or in your case, your speaker's going to be maybe in wall or on wall speakers, in which case just 2 up there. 2 at the first reflection points, 2 like behind your couch on the side walls, and 2 behind your couch on the back wall. And then as the 2 corners that don't have subwoofers in them, put some corner trapping there. And I think I just find it's a nice, easy solution. It's not that hard, and it gives you a good amount of absorption without being too absorptive.
Yeah, I mean, the front wall might be questionable in this case because it looks like it's this narrow room. Yeah, the screen's going to be right on the wall. So don't drive yourself crazy about that. That's okay. At least this room is fully carpeted. So yeah, I would say like a couple of panels on each side wall. So 4 panels total, couple on the left wall, couple on the right wall. At least get those first reflection points. And then, yeah, like right beside or just slightly behind your seats, good places to have them. And you do have this rear alcove, so you could put some insulation in that alcove if you have enough space with the equipment and that. Up on the ceiling if you want to. I'm not going to say it's totally vital, but you could. That's about it. It's really all you need.
For speakers, he wants neutral, accurate sound and good timbre match, with the front 3 being more important to him than the rest. And he wants either in walls or on walls, with this budget of about $2,000 for all 9 speakers. He's been considering Def Tech and Polk. What?
Those are easily found. So
they are, but the neutral, accurate sound in Def Tech and Polk. Well, Polk's not that bad, but Def Tech has got a sound. I mean, they make no bones about that.
They're not too bad, but
anyway, so not golden ear, but yeah, okay. Well, what we recommend, one consideration is that due to the framing, that he might not be possible to install an in-wall center and have it accurately actually be centered. So perhaps on walls up front would be best. Well, okay. You can still have an in-wall center that's below your screen. That's
just vertical.
That's just fine. Yeah, it's just
like literally the exact same model as your left and right. It doesn't have to be horizontal. If it's an in-wall, it can just be another vertical, 2-way in-wall speaker. That
I've always found that looked too weird for me. I want my
if you blend it right into the wall though with the matching paint color,
never perfectly bent. It's never. You can always know that there's a speaker up there.
But am I crazy for thinking Focal Superbirds?
That's the kind of the direction I was going to be honest with you. The Superbirds I think would be good here.
They'd be really nice actually.
I think it would be a very good solution for what he's going for. Once I hear these birds for real, and get an idea of how even they are, but I think this sounds like something like on walls. I think is what he's kind of leaning towards, anyways.
Yeah,
and the super birds are going to be, I think they're kind of cool looking, and you can aim them and everything, and I think it's a pretty good solution. In walls for me are just, if you're not building the room around the in walls, you always end up with having to make some sort of weird compromise. Because of where the boards are, or where the framing is inside the walls. You're like, oh well, I was going to put it right here, but I can't because of that. So this one's got to go right here, and this one's got to go right there. And then I think I'd go that direction. Now, for the rest of them, you could go with the regular birds or the
little birds, really.
Little birds, right? Because you're going to be close enough to all of those things. Or you could go with in walls and in ceiling speakers as well, and there's plenty of options there that you could look at. But I think that up front, the Focal Superbirds would be a good solution.
Yeah, I like that up there. If you are going in wall, I mean, it's going to be our the recommendations we always offer: RBH, KEF, Aperion. Those are all going to be. You said you wanted nice neutral sound.
Right.
Those are our nice neutral. Now, I will say, because KEF's prices have gone up on their entry-level stuff, that might not be doable at this price point to put KEF all around 9 speakers for under $2,000, because
I would really like RBH, to be honest with you. And I know
some people have difficulty finding them.
Yeah, finding them, and then pricing can be an issue as well. So
it might end up being might end up being AVRant. AVRant you can definitely get. It'll definitely fit this budget, and it definitely fits what you want. So if you want to do in-walls, and I also, like let's say you do go for the Focal Superbirds as on-wall speakers for your front, left, center, right, then for your Atmos speakers and your surround speakers, if you want those to be in-wall and in-ceiling, AVRants would be a great matching choice for those. That fits
so you have
budget.
on-wall options, which would be the little birds, whether the small ones are.
That's right.
And you've got you've got AVRant as your in-wall options. Now, if you want to go in-wall all the way around, there's no problem with that either.
That's right.
You could look at AVRant there. You could look at RBH as well. Our RBH is just really, it's really my favorite when it comes to these sorts of solutions, because it's just a trust I have. I've never had their speakers let me down. I've never listened to RBH speaker and said, well, that's not worth the money, or that has a different sound than clean and neutral, which is what I expect from them. So there you go. All right. The electrician ran RG6 coax cable for the subwoofers, but the wall plates are F-type connectors, like a cable TV connector. Is that going to function okay for subwoofers? Should you use an RCA adapter or change the wall plates, or what? Yeah, you can't plug that in. I mean, is there an adapter that even works that goes RCA to?
Yeah, you can get it. You can get an F-type to RCA adapter. That's, I mean, the coax cable inside is fine. It's literally just the connector on the end.
It's the connector at the end that makes the difference, right?
So yeah, there's no problem functionally here. Although RCA wall plates are cheap, I just replace the wall plate. I mean, you can do that yourself. There's nothing to it.
Well, that's true, but it depends on how it's terminated at the end too. I mean, a lot of times
if it's all crimped in, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of times what they do, these wall plates are, they have the same thing on both sides. So you screw in on the back side, and then that thing might not even be, there might be just, a lot of times you take that off, there's going to be a hole in the wall just barely big, a little, maybe a quarter size, a little bit bigger than the quarter, maybe a $50 size. There, the cable is kind of poking up to the thing, and the screws are going actually just directly into the drywall with nothing really supporting it. There might not even be a box back there. So the adapter might be your easiest, best choice.
Yeah.
I don't see really a problem with that, but yes, you can't plug that type cable into your subwoofer. There's not going to be a subwoofer that'll accept it, but that type terminator, not cable. The cable's fine. It's the same cable.
Yeah.
So that's not the problem. If you look at behind it and you can easily switch it to RCA, I mean, 6 of one, half dozen of another, dude. How much is that? How much is that?
Yeah, if changing the wall plate is going to be any type of hassle to you, then yeah, just get an F-type to RCA adapter, and that's it. That's all you need.
So floor space at the premium doesn't want to spend more than $1,500 for a pair of subs. What would we recommend? How big is this? 18 by 11 by what? 7, 8, 10? What? I can't remember. I'm scrolling up. 18 by 11 by 10. So this is not a tiny room.
It's not tiny, but it's certainly not huge, and it's enclosed. And if you want to destroy this place and floor space is at a premium, how about a pair of PC 2000s?
And that's what? That's $1,600. Is it $1,500? Is it 50? Is it with a discount?
I wish I could look up the US prices because they bumped me to the Canadian thing.
Oh, okay. I'll look it up.
It's under that though. It's not that high. I think when you buy them as duals, it's $1,500. I think it's on the nose.
I think so too.
But I mean that would rock this room. I mean, it's actually a little bit more than you need, but you wanted floor space savings. Now, I would say something that's less expensive that I would 100% be satisfied with in this room would be a pair of HSU VTF2 Mark Vs, not the big old VTF3, the VTF2 Mark Vs that they have. That would be less expensive. Definitely, you could get a pair of those for well under $1,500, and output and extension wise would be like ideally suited for this room. But they actually take up more floor space than the cylinders, so that's the question mark.
Right, and I think it is. It looks like it is $1,500 on the nose
for PC 2000s for duals.
For the duals, yeah. I clicked it and nothing happened.
Yeah, because you do get the discount for getting duals at the same time, and the
so it's $800 by itself, and then you save $100 by adding 2, so it's $700 for the second one, so that's $1,500. That's right. I don't think they don't charge shipping, right?
They don't charge shipping.
Probably some sort of tax.
So I mean that just fits, and that would crush that room with the smallest footprint. Of course, they're tall, being cylinders, they're tall, but it's the small footprint. So yeah, that would easily do it. But if you want something less expensive but actually takes up a little bit more floor space, I'd get those HSUs.
Yeah, they don't sell anything smaller than the PC 2000s, do they? On the cylinder
Not for cylinders, no. So then you'd be going to like one of their sealed box models, which, I mean, an SB 2000 certainly wouldn't be a terrible choice in here. but I kind of want that 20 hertz to like completely pressurize this space because you totally can.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So then an AVR X4300H or 4400H. Any reason to consider a different AV receiver choice? Well, if you want that music cast or you're planning on having whole home audio, you look at Yamaha. There's an option right there.
Yeah, music cast would be about the only reason. The only other thing I would mention is if you're shopping at accessories for less, I don't know the stock situation on the X4300 right now. So you could look at the sister models in Marantz' lineup. That's the SR6011 or the SR6012. That's purely a matter of what's in stock, what's at the lowest price, because they're feature-wise, they're all the same, basically. So, yeah.
Right. So he's planning on a seating distance of 11 feet from the front wall. He could theoretically fit a 135-inch screen, but that would squish the front left-right speakers right into the corner. So 120 inches is 120 inches the right screen choice.
Well, from 11 feet away, that's giving you a 43.2 degree field of view, which I think is pretty darn nice.
Yeah. You know what? I'm one who really likes a big screen, not like a huge screen. I am okay with moving my eyes just the tiniest bit just to see the corners. Okay. I don't want to have to move my eyes any more than that. Like if something's in the corner, I tell you, most of the time I don't even notice any of this. The last time and the first time in a really long time I've noticed having to look around my screen was watching that Manhunter TV show on Netflix where they would flash up the name of the city and would fill the entire screen.
Right.
When you're sitting 7 feet away from a 50-inch screen, that's really easy to see. When you're sitting 8 feet away from a 92-inch screen, you're like, Indianapolis. You know, it's just really hard to read. So that was about the only time. I would err on the side, even if the field of view was making it even worse than 43. I would err on the side of not shoving those speakers into the corners. If you could. Yes,
I don't see any compelling reason to do that here.
Right, I don't either. But if they were freestanding, you could move them into the room and cheat them in because you could still see around them. But having them on the walls or in the walls means that there is no way of cheating them a little bit towards the inside. I really think that having them that far out just really makes it hard for them to image properly and doesn't give you quite the sound that you're going to want.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would go with the 120-inch screen sonically. I think Rob's point of the field of view and everything is also right on. 43 is plenty big enough. But the sound, I think, is also compelling.
Yeah, don't kill your sound for an extra few inches on the screen. That doesn't make sense here.
Yeah. So he owns a Epson 5025 UB projector, which is a slightly dimmer version of the 5030 UB. No plans to upgrade right away. Is there any reason for concern? The only reason for concern that you have to worry about in a projector like this, first of all, if you're not worried about 4K resolution, HDR, and nonsense, then you just have to worry about whether or not it can fill your 120-inch screen from, it's going to be like 17 feet away.
Yeah.
Is that right? Which I would guess the Epson would have no problems with, but Rob will tell us for sure in a second.
Oh yeah, that's totally fine. That thing has tons of zoom range, tons of lens shift, so absolutely.
And 120 inches, like every projector on the market is like, you don't build a projector and then say, 120 inches, it can't light that up.
Oh no, zero problem for that. Even being a little bit dimmer than the 50. The 5030 got really bright, so no qualms here at all.
So outside the dedicated theater, he installed speakers in 6 other rooms for whole house audio. He bought a Dayton MA1260 distribution amp, and he figured he'd just plug 6 Chromecast audios into that. That way he can have different music in each room, or he can group together any combination of those Chromecast audios if he wants the same music playing in multiple rooms. So how is that different from using Dayton's Matrix whole house audio package? Anything wrong with his plan? So that there's no problem. I don't think there's anything wrong with your plan that I can think of.
No, that's fine. The Matrix system just allows it. Like, let's say you had a CD player that you wanted the option to be able to play that out of any room. Well, being a Matrix switcher, you plug in one CD player, and then you can play that CD player's source out of any one room or combination of rooms that you want to. You plug in a Blu-ray player, a cable box, all into this Matrix system. You can then play that out of any room or combination of rooms. With the Chromecast audios, it's like, well, Chromecast audio is your one and only source. You have one
Right.
Chromecast audio for each room, so you can play 6 different things in 6 different rooms. That's totally fine, but it has to be coming from a Chromecast audio. The Matrix package just lets you have other sources that would also come. But if you're not gonna, if this is just for music, your plan is totally fine and it's cost effective. So yeah, you're
So the only issue that you would run into here is if Chromecast, like I've never used these audios, the Chromecast audios before, but if you can't say to the Chromecast audio, say, hey, I want my Pandora list from this all playing from all 3 of these at the exact same time. So, if you want it all to be exactly the same, I think they work that way, right? You can do that.
You can give them a name and then you can group together however many you want. So that'll work totally fine.
All right, Nick. New question. Yeah, that was like 20 minutes of that. Nick, Stereophile reviewed the Emotiva Gen 3 amps, and they include measurements. They indicate a steep rise in distortion at the top end, especially from the 15 to 20 kilohertz, where it looks as though the distortion of the amplifier spikes. That's above where a lot of people can hear anyway, so maybe it doesn't matter. But what do we think about this? It's a possible Emotiva is cutting some corners. I looked at this last week. Okay. And I didn't see what he was talking about, to be honest with you. Which of these measurements is showing this
distortion? In the intermodulation distortion graph. And they're throwing a 19 and a 20 kilohertz signal at the same time and creating this spike up there. Honestly, this was brought up on Emotiva's own lounge forums. Now, for their part, they were like, this was actually kind of like a pre-production model that they sent to Stereophile, and they pulled a unit just off of their production line and measured it themselves, and like we couldn't recreate the measurements that Stereophile got, so maybe it was literally just a bum unit, like it was a pre-production unit. It wasn't. But you know what, more than that, why are you reading Stereophile? Like, this review was ridiculous. This is one of the dumbest things I've ever read. Oh, but I mean, that's all Stereophile reviews. It's stupid. Like, why the comments that they're making? It's absolutely ridiculous. All this flowery language and everything. And you know what? They talk about the speaker wires that made such a difference changing these. I'm like, I don't know what speaker wire you used when you measure this thing. You got some stupid transparent cable with a battery hooked into it, and there's your distortion up at 20 kilohertz. Like, I don't know what they're doing. Like, they don't know what they're doing at Stereophile. It's a terrible thing to read. So don't put any faith in this. Besides all that, Home Theater Hi-Fi, which is Secrets of Home Theater, they measured these exact same amplifiers, and they measured beautifully. No distortion up there. They're totally fine, and they actually know how to do That's what Secrets of Home Theater built their name on measuring DVD players. They actually know how to do measurements. Stereophile has no idea what they're doing, so nuts to them.
Rob's angry.
Well,
I like angry Rob.
I mean, people get led so astray by. I mean, Stereophile's been around for ages. There are people who put their faith in that magazine and want to sound like they're a Stereophile reviewer. I'm like, it's complete nonsense. I mean, if you want a good laugh, read that review. It's ridiculous.
I didn't. I looked at the measurements. I was like, I don't have no idea what this guy's talking about here.
Well, not just the measurements, the actual review.
Well, that's the other thing. It was like I sent a 1 kilohertz and then whatever. Through it, and I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, measuring amplifiers is not hard. You just, you have to have the equipment.
The whole thing was this tale of Mr. Objective and how Mr. Objective has no idea why things sound the way this. I'm like, just give it up, go away.
Anywho, Rob didn't like that review. In case you're wondering how he felt about it, if you would like, he's going to tweet about it later very angrily. He has a couple more Diet Cokes and really gets hyped up. Chris thanked us for all the suggestions we made regarding the basement theater for his friend, where he's going to be taking care of installation and labor. Dude, I hope this is not just a friend. I hope it's like a friend. You know what I'm talking about? It's a friend, because this is going to be a lot of work, dude.
Yep.
Don't be that guy. Don't be the guy who thinks you're going to build a home theater for a girl and she's going to fall in love with you. You got to get her to fall in love with you first. Then you build the home theater. Okay? It's a carrot. There's no stick involved. But anyway. So he's got some questions to finalize the plans. The BenQ 2050 ST projector, Marantz SR6011 receiver, outdoor speaker depot, MK650 in-ceiling speakers, dual SVS, SB12 NSD subwoofers, a Logitech Harmony hub, remote cables, in-wall wires, and the projector mount from Amazon and Monoprice. All seems and looks like they will fit nicely in her budget. For the screen, he found a silver ticket, acoustically transparent option, but it only comes in a fixed frame. So it's but it's affordable. So do we think? I think you're not going to be able to get past that fixed frame to the rest of that, because we said to put it in front of that alcove. Is she okay with you blocking off the alcove from now until the end of time? Because I have the feeling the answer to that question is no. Well, and that too, it's supposed to hook at the top and the bottom.
Yeah,
these fixed frames. You can't just hook at the top and let it swing. It's just, that's not how it works.
Further to that, as much as I like Silver Ticket's products, their woven acoustic transparent screen isn't one I would really highly recommend. You can see the weave on that sucker.
I don't think that's going to be much of an issue here. As
probably
far as,
not, because the seating distance is pretty far. So, but altogether,
she's all the way up against that back wall. Yeah, she's not going to see it.
So the one I would really recommend to you, I would go with Elite Screens. And if you're going Elite Screens for acoustically transparent, I would highly recommend you go for their Acoustic Pro UHD version, which is the much finer weave. They have an Acoustic Pro 1080, which, guess what, has a less fine weave, and you can see the weave. So get the Acoustic Pro UHD. That's a very nice fine weave. The sound passes through it very easily. And they have an electric motorized roll down screen called the Spectrum, where you can get this Acoustic Pro UHD material. Now, unfortunately, they don't have a huge selection of screen sizes. I think it goes 100 and then 120. But that should actually work in this particular situation. And if you get it from Amazon, even the 120-inch size is under $600. Now, that's more than the Silver Ticket, but it has all the features that you need for like a couple $100 more. It still fits within the budget, and it's totally worth it. So I would have to point you there. Now, normally for most people, I would recommend the Saker tab tensioned version of this screen from Elite Screens. That has many more screen sizes available to it, and I like a tab tensioned a lot of times, but that more than doubles the price. You're looking at like $1,200 all of a sudden, which
the other one's not tab tensioned.
No, the Spectrum is not tab tensioned, but it's not the end of the world. I mean, the price is a consideration here. It's a nice screen material. It's the electric roll down that you want at a price you can afford. So I'm okay with that here.
The only thing I would be worried about with that is I would be concerned about breezes. You're going to be hanging this thing basically right in front of a hallway.
Yeah.
So you want to at least stand there and test it out. When the AC kicks on or the heat kicks on, do you feel a breeze? When the door opens, does it, at the end of that hallway, is there a change in the air volume and you can feel the wind moving around you, or the air moving around you? In which case, maybe a non-tab tension screen is an issue. There's a lot of things you could do here, but we did okay. Anyways, this is an option. So he's he is. I mean, I almost wish we could just turn this whole thing around.
That was my suggestion.
On the other wall.
That was my suggestion. Right? Turn the whole thing 180, but that does all the things she said she doesn't want to do. So that's just out. I mean, I'm not gonna try and entertain an idea that has been rejected.
Yeah, I know. I understand. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm like, we can make this work. We can do this. It's going to be non-optimal, and doing it within budget is also going to be an issue. But doing it within budget and we'll get you something good. It may be a little quirky. It may be don't open the door, or everybody starts to wobble like they're Jello. But yeah,
I mean, at least acoustically transparent, the air can move through it, so it's not having the vinyl backing that acts as a sail. At least it's not that situation.
Not as much. Yeah. So all right. So he's a bit concerned that with the substantial listening distance, the outdoor speaker depot in-wall speakers might not get the job done. He's considering some Klipsch in-walls that go for about $450 a pair. Well, if you're going for loud, and you're going for in-wall and loud, Klipsch is always a very good option for that. But they're not the only horn-loaded speaker in town.
Nope. We mentioned them quite a bit last week. We'll mention them again this week. HSU's horn-loaded in-walls, which are actually less expensive. And since he does still want to go with the Outdoor Speaker Depot in-ceiling speakers, they better match the efficiency of those. So you're not going to have this huge efficiency mismatch, which you might with the Klipsch. They can still play loud, they're still horn loaded, they're actually less expensive, and they match better with the other speakers you're going to use. So I don't see a downside in getting the HSU in walls for this application.
So where would we recommend installing the Atmos speakers, and what position names will we give them? Isn't she sitting on the back wall?
Sitting on the back
She's sitting on the
wall.
back.
Sitting
So you're
on
going to
the
have
back wall.
top, middles, and
Front heights. You'd have to call them front heights. Yeah,
that's going to be it.
Yeah, you
those
basically
are
have
the
them
options.
directly above the primary seats there. Those will be your top middles. And then 5 feet in front of that, and you call them front heights. Done.
Yeah. You can't call them top, what did they call them? Top fronts or whatever?
Yeah,
top,
you can't have top fronts and top middles.
and
there
top
has to
middles.
be a gap.
They don't let you.
Yeah, they don't let you name it that. Yeah.
So none of the in-wall or in-ceiling speakers being considered come with backer boxes. What should he do on that front? Can he buy them? And if so, where? Well, most of these speakers will tell you, most of the manufacturers will tell you how much airspace they want back there. So you just close off that amount of the whatever the floor. I mean, the ceiling part that you're putting this thing in. So if it's supposed to be 1 cubic foot of air, you're like, okay, well, this is 6 inches, and this is that, and this is that, and that's a cubic foot. So block it off, and you're good to go.
Yeah, literally a wood cross brace. You put that in the bay, and then line the area that's going to be behind the in-wall speaker. Line that with insulation, because you do want insulation in there. But that's about it. I mean, you can very easily DIY that part of it.
Yeah.
If you want a retrofit solution, there are some available. RBH sells foam retrofit backer boxes exactly for this application. So they have one that goes in a standard 2x4 16-inch on center that could go behind an in-wall speaker. They also have them for in-ceiling speakers, which are a little bit deeper and a little bit more box-shaped. So RBH does have those foam ones, and Dynamat actually sells a whole solution for this. They have one called N-Wall, EN-wall for in-wall speakers, and then they have one that they call their Dynabox for in-ceiling speakers. But if you were to get those HSU speakers, these N-Wall and Dynabox products from Dynamat cost about half the price of the speakers themselves. Now, I mean,
whereas 2x4s are cheap.
Yeah, I mean, since the speakers are very affordable, it's not like a ridiculous ask, but it's kind of hard to justify when you got this budget going on, when you could just, I mean, you said you're okay with opening up the walls to do what needs to be done in the walls and closing them back up. Where these would be super convenient is where you only want to drill a hole and you don't want to open up the wall any more than that. Then these can be retrofit that way. That's where these would make sense. And when you're using more expensive speakers. But in your case, since you said you're okay with opening, well, just put some cross braces in, fill it with insulation. There's your backer box.
Lastly, he's not too sure about the idea of putting the front right speaker in the alcove wall while the center and front left speaker go in the front wall. That's a 5.5 foot difference in depth. So what are our thoughts on that? I think it's not a problem. I wouldn't have said it with it. I mean, I think we mentioned this before, but the reality is your receiver is just going to set the distance setting different, and that's going to be it. That it's just going to just shorten the distance and then turn it down. Yeah. So and that puts them back in phase. That's the distance. Yeah. Puts them back in phase. And then it makes them the same volume. And once you can see the image on there, it's never going to be an issue.
Yeah. I mean, I totally understand that with the screen rolled up, you're going to think to yourself, oh, that looks a little bit weird. But first of all, you're going to paint the grills so that it blends right in with the wall. So you're barely going to see it anyway. And when the screen comes down in front of all those speakers, you're totally not going to see them. So do not worry. I know it looks weird. I totally get that. But don't worry. Your AV receiver can handle it.
That's right. Andy has the unfinished basement where they paid extra to have the 10-foot ceilings, and his wife was not thrilled about the idea of lowering that with a drop tile ceiling in the theater area. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Yeah. Andy's wife and what's his? Carl? Was it Carl's wife? I don't remember. Should talk about the one with the architect should talk about why they have pipes hanging down there. He also wanted to clarify that he said 65 inches is the biggest flat panel size they're considering for 2 reasons. One, he wants a projector no matter what, so spending more on a larger flat panel would mean less in the $4,500 display budget for a projector and screen. Okay, that makes sense. And 2, he's honestly isn't sure if a 75-inch would physically fit down the stairs, as there's a sharp 90-degree turn at the bottom.
You can fit it. You might have to turn it up on its side.
That's what I was going to say.
Don't think of doing that. But
you got to take it out of the box, turn it up on its side, and then
you might not even have to take it out of the box as long as you turn the box up on its side.
Yeah, maybe, but whatever. Regardless, a flat panel would only be for casual viewing, so smaller would likely be fine. But a bit of a washed out image on the projection screen would probably be fine too. So it's a bit of a dilemma. What do we think we should do? Well, I mean, if you're absolutely dead set on getting a projector and you don't care about it being washed out, spend all $4,500 of that on a projector and the screen.
Yeah,
that's me. That's me. Buy the best thing you can for your optimal experience.
Mm-hmm.
So when I watch movies, I want it to be dark. I want it to be loud. I want it to be beautifully presented to me, and I want to have an amazing auditory and visual experience. Fine. But then every once in a while, you're going to be watching it during the day to watch some sports or whatever. You're like, okay, well, I don't care if it's a little bit compromised during those times.
Yeah.
Buy for what you actually care about. That's what I say.
But that said, he did mention they got kids. Kids might just be watching cartoons or playing some games or something. Again, casual, not critical. But I'm like, do you really want to turn a projector on every time you just want to throw on a cartoon or a video game or something? I mean, you can get a pretty darn nice, very inexpensive 65-inch TV these days.
See, I'm kind of torn because this is, I mean, because with my kids in particular, like I can't remember the casual viewing that he's doing what he was talking about. If it's just for games with kids or whatever, believe me, do get like a 30-inch little screen and set it in the corner with the game system attached to it. They don't care what it sounds like. They don't care what it looks like. All they care is that they can press the buttons and make the little guy jump around.
Right.
That's all they really care.
So really skimp on a flat panel. Yeah.
That's what I say. I mean, if that's what you're using it for, if that's like, I don't want to power this whole thing up, because believe me, I feel the same way. My kids are like, I want to go watch YouTube. I'm like, there's a computer right there. Can I go watch it in the theater? I'm like, I don't want you watching YouTube in the theater. I watch YouTube in the theater. That's okay. But you guys can't because you're wasting the bulb, you know?
Yeah.
And I can understand that. But if it's for him to have casual viewing, well, then fine. Get yourself a 65, 55, whatever's on sale. Super duper.
I mean, like that 65M series from Vizio is like still a killer TV for well under $1,000 at this point.
But that's still like a quarter of almost a quarter of his budget.
That's right. Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
I know. Well, that's why he's in a dilemma. That's why he's in a pickle. But yeah, I mean, given some of the uses that he mentioned in his email, I'm like, I wouldn't mind having, like, if it's not going to be you, if you're not going to care about it, and this is just super casual viewing and it's your kids' use, get like a super cheap flat panel, something that's really not going to take up much of your budget at all.
Throw some bean bags in front of it, right? So it looks big to them.
And then and then focus on the projector. Yeah, I agree with that.
So all the stuff we said about the ceiling has been heard and agreed to. They would appreciate preventing sound from traveling between the upstairs and downstairs, though. So if they did say like double drywall with green glue in between, they'd have to do that for the entire open basement, correct? Wouldn't be much point of doing that only over the theater area, right? That is correct.
Yes. Anywhere the air can move, the air will move.
Will move.
So
that's right.
This is not an enclosed space. The air has no idea that you have designated this portion of the basement to be your theater area and not the rest of the basement. Has absolutely no clue about that. So yeah, soundproofing is about stopping the air from getting from one place to another. So yeah, whatever you do to soundproof the ceiling has to be done through the whole ceiling. Could just be a resilient channel. I mean, you don't have to go insane. You just insulate in between the basement ceiling and the upstairs floor, insulate there, and then a resilient channel and one layer of drywall. Like that'll do a lot more than just having the drywall directly on the joists. You don't have to go insane.
Right.
Yeah.
Tyson. This comes from AVRant.com. We often say you can post there and we will answer your questions, unless you're Tyson, in which case we completely ignore you. So we're sorry. We apparently missed this question.
We're getting to it now.
And I think that question went into, because I might be wrong, Tyson, because I know this happened recently, but I can't remember if it was your question or not. But there was a question that went into the queue to be approved, and you can auto approve it by putting your email address in it. It sends you an email that says, are you a real person? And then you say yes, and then your question is posted or your comment is posted on the website. If you do not do that, or you put some fake email or you mistype your email, it goes out into the ether and it never gets posted. I happened to be on the back end of AV Rant looking at something, noticed that there was a comment that had what seemed to be a real non-spam comment, and I went ahead and improved it. So could have been you, could have been somebody else, but so something was broken down here. I'm glad that we're finally getting to your question. So Tyson has a bedroom set up that includes a pair of KEF Q100 speakers that he really loves. He was using them with a Polk center speaker, but he eventually found they preferred just the 2.1 setup with his KEFs and his SVS SB2000 subwoofer, since the Phantom Center sounded better than using the Polk. His words, not ours. Since KEF has updated the Q series, the Q100s are getting harder to find. So he'd like to snag another pair of them before they're all gone. Once he has 4 Q100 speakers, he'd like to know whether he should use them as front, left, right, and surround left, right, or should he use one of them as a center speaker and try to use the fourth one as a single surround back speaker? I don't think they let you do a single surround back speaker, Haas.
That's right.
Begin with, yeah. So that's not really an option. I mean,
No.
You could theoretically figure out some way to wire it where it doesn't blow everything up, but your only option, if you can buy one more pair, you should buy 2 more pairs and then have a center speaker and a spare.
Or you could have a 6 speaker setup. They will let you do left, center, right, surround left, surround right, and a single surround back. Yes. You can do 6, but you can't do 4 as in front 3 and a single surround channel. That isn't a setup option that's available to you. So if you just have the 4, you already said you're quite satisfied with the Phantom Center. So I'd just keep going with the Phantom Center, and I'd have front left and right and surround left and right. That's how I would use 4 bookshelf speakers in this case, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Again, from AV Rant, this is a Raid 5 was the username given to us, and dude, I'm pretty sure this is the guy who's a comment I approved. So Tyson, I was wrong about that. I'm like 90% sure this was the dude whose comment I approved manually. On episodes 5, 6, 7, we responded to a listener named Benjamin who asked if he could use his spare Onkyo receiver as an amplifier for his front 3 speakers in an Atmos setup. We said that he certainly could. We said he could certainly power 2 channels, and we also said that he could sort of power the front 3 by matrixing the center channel from a 2 channel input. But Raid 5, this is the listener, not the stack of hard drives, noticed that the Onkyo TX-NR636 in question has a Zone 2 output. So couldn't that be used to power another 1 or 2 speakers? I have to be honest with you. This whole question just confuses me. Hold on a second. Let me think about this. This was the guy. He had he bought a new receiver. He had an extra receiver, and he wanted to use that extra receiver to power his front speakers.
Well, he just wanted to use it as an amplifier, right? So he got one of the Atmos models that has 9 amps built in, but he wants to use 11 speakers. Right. So he's like, hey, I have this spare receiver. Can I just use that as an amplifier?
It only had pre-ins for
the Onkyo 636 does not have a 7.1 analog input. It just has your regular stereo RCA inputs, like your CD input or your analog input for your Blu-ray player or whatever. That's all it's got as far as inputs goes. So we were like, so you can definitely send it a 2-channel signal, which gets Benjamin what he required, which is he needs 2 more amplifier channels to do 11 speakers. But he was like, could I offload the center speaker as well? Could I power my front 3 speakers with the Onkyo, and therefore, the 9-channel amplifier, I'd only have to use 8 of those instead of 9, offload a little bit more of the work. This is exactly right. Raid 5 has a good solution. If you have this Zone 2 output and it has Zone 2 speaker binding posts, you assign 1 stereo input to your main zone, and you tell it you only have front, left, right speakers, and you connect the speakers to the front, left, right binding posts. And then for Zone 2, you choose a different analog stereo input and connect that pair of speakers, or just 1 speaker, to the Zone 2 speaker binding posts. You're correct. This could be done. And since all the base management is happening in the Atmos receiver, you're not worried about that. You just need it to act as a dumb amplifier. That's all the Onkyo has to do in this situation. So yeah, you would turn on both the main zone and Zone 2. You would select 2 different sources for the main zone and Zone 2. But then it could do that. It could power 3 or 4 speakers that way. It's a good call, Raid 5. Thank you.
You could have to send your receiver so that it was full volume, zero, up to reference
Yep.
level on both the zone 1 and zone 2.
And then never touch it again.
And probably go into the settings and say, go back to whatever the volume level was when it was turned off, because many of them will reset if you don't do that. So you may have to select that too. So yeah, that works too. I didn't think about that. That's a good point.
Good call.
I extremely need a glass of water, so I may have to take a break here in a second to do that. Bill took all of our advice from last week and made some detailed drawings for his speaker placement. Once he did so, he feels as though everything just sort of fell into place. So he's happy now with the placement of his front, left, right speakers and Atmos overhead speakers, but he has some more questions. Boy, I kind of felt like that was going to the thank you and goodbye, but nope.
Nope.
Thank you and more.
Yes.
All right, so there's this big drawing here, which I think Rob is showing you on YouTube.
It's a very detailed drawing, but yes, everything looks like it has fallen nicely into place. The front lefts rights are just slightly wider than his screen, giving him a nice 45-degree field of view and a little bit more than a 45-degree spread between his front left and right. And then the Atmos speakers are like a little bit in front, a little bit behind. The 2 rows of seats all look ship-shape.
Yeah. All right, I'm scrolling down. So he's still leaning towards having surround back speakers, but now that he sees the detailed plans with the top rears and the 2 rows of side surround speakers, he's wondering if he's getting a bit crowded back there. Should he still keep the surround backs?
Yes. His front row is his primary row. That's pretty far away from that back wall.
That's true. I guess what he's seeing those top rears and those surrounds. But
this is an 11-foot ceiling, so.
That's true, and that's what's just a little bit
throwing you off in a two-dimensional diagram. Yeah,
that two-dimensional. They look like they're real close, but when you saw them from the side, they're going to be quite a bit difference in height.
Yeah,
and then when you draw that diagonal line, you're going to see they're probably 4, 5, 6 feet apart.
Plus, they're playing completely discrete sounds from one another. It's not as though the surround backs are playing the same sound as those top rears in any situation. So yeah, I get it. When you look at it, you're like, oh yeah, those look close together, but that's 2-dimensional. Remember, you got a 11-foot ceiling height, and front row being the primary row, you've got a good distance to your back wall in that case. So yeah, keep your surround backs.
Yeah. So he's either going to use the Send HTM 200 SEs or the Focal Bird speakers as his overhead Atmos speakers. Neither of those uses concentric or coaxial driver designs. So how should he orient the tweeter of those speakers when they're on the ceiling? Do you simply keep the tweeters closest to the primary listening position? When you're on the ceiling, you're not going to have a whole lot of options, at least not with the Focal Birds. They're going to be hanging from the ceiling. I'm looking at them right now. I didn't get the option of saying what side do I want the tweeter to be on. It's where it is, which is, I actually don't know where it is. Is it on the bottom, like towards the base of the speaker? Because that's where the little indentation looks like it would be.
It could be. There's a very small little indentation for the tweeter on the Focal Birds.
Yeah, it's on the bottom, which when it's on the ceiling makes it on the top.
I mean, even though the Focal Birds nor the Ascend HTM 200 SEs are concentric or coaxial, both of them have very wide, even dispersion regardless. I mean, the Focal Birds, that tweeter is right next to the woofer. They basically act as a point source. And the HTM 200 SEs with their sort of nested array also act very close to a point source. So it kind of doesn't matter very much.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that.
Yeah,
you're not going to be aiming them directly at your face anyways. They're going to be kind of, so you're off access to it no matter where.
Yeah, I mean, the
tweeter is in relation to the drivers.
If you end up with the Focal Birds, I would totally not care, because they really act as a point. So it's the HTM 200 SEs. The prevailing wisdom is, yes, have the tweeters closer to your primary seat than the woofers. So like if you're going to have setting them up in 90-degree angles, everything square, you would have the woofers closer to the side walls and the tweeters closer to the middle of the room. But in all honesty, it really doesn't make any audible difference. They're super even in their dispersion.
Yeah. So sticking with the 23-foot length for his room means he doesn't actually have a ton of space for up for his false wall up front. As a result, the ACVS PC12 Plus cylinder would fit more easily behind this false wall than the HSU BTF3 Mark V HP, but the PC12 costs more. He planned to use the SVS cylinder at the back of the room all along. So what do we suggest? Could you just turn the HSU sideways so that it will physically fit? It seems a bit odd to have the driver firing either across the front wall or into the side wall and then have the ports firing the other direction, whatever. That base doesn't care one iota what direction you face it. That you do not want to face it into a wall.
Yeah, like actually, like, yeah.
Like, do not face it into a wall. But other than that, it really doesn't care. Those waves are so long, they wrap right around that speaker. They're omnidirectional. They're going everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, think about the cylinder. It's firing down and up.
Down. Yeah.
Right? The ports are going up and the driver's going down. So yeah, which direction the driver is facing really is inconsequential. If you just want to save some money and the way you can fit the HSU back there is by turning it sideways, have at it.
Knock
totally fine.
Out, dude. Yeah, that'll be fun. Wait a second, I gotta scroll. The latest plans for the house as a whole include the kitchen being larger, so its dedicated equipment room, which will house all the electronics for pretty much the whole house, is no longer accessible from the hallway just outside the theater. Instead, the equipment room will be behind his theater, more or less behind the rear left corner. All along, he wanted to have a window of sorts from the equipment room into the theater so he could access sources that require physical discs from inside the theater. He can still do that in the rear left corner, but he's just wondering about the construction of that window/shelf. He still wants excellent soundproofing, so it can't just be an opening to into the equipment room. But the cables from all those sources still need to get back into the equipment room. So most of all, those sources still need ventilation. The equipment room will have its own dedicated HVAC. So should he just install some fans to circulate the cool air through the window/shelf, or should he keep it completely sealed and rely on air circulation within the theater to ventilate those sources? Can't he use this as that dead drop room that we always talk about for his HVAC? Can't this be that room, the air return thing?
I guess it could, but you'd have to, I mean, given the huge disparity in size between the equipment room and the theater, you would have to pump a crazy amount of air into the equipment room to use that as your dead vent. So
I mean, the other thing is here, I mean, I know you want this nice little window and stuff like that, but this can end up being like almost a bass strap for you if you really wanted it to be. You could put, you could fill the whole thing up, with insulation or whatever, or, not the whole thing. But
I'm wondering, why can't this essentially be a little closet? Like, it wouldn't be a full all the way down to the floor closet, but think of it like building a little closet in that back corner.
Yeah. So how big is this thing? Can we see it on any of these drawings?
Yeah, you can see. Well, in that diagram there that we've got, it's in the rear left corner there. So why not have like the window that's opening into your theater? Make that something you can close, right? Like, you need it to be accessible, not visible.
I think he's
like you're looking at it.
I think he wants to look at it. I think he wants a glass. I think that's what he wants. Have you seen those things?
Yeah,
it's just a glass display thing. So that he's not thinking of a window. He's thinking of like a door on a cabinet that is glass.
You put some cool little lights in there, type of thing.
Yeah,
you press
it, and then the thing pops open. Well, that thing's gonna route like crazy, anyways. So Rob's suggesting it's probably the easiest solution: have a real door. Or window or something that actually closes and seals up from the room. Then you could do whatever you want back there. My suggestion
then you're just building a cubby, right? That's all you're doing, and like, you wouldn't have a big hole that goes from the cubby into the equipment room. You just the wires that you need to feed in there, the power and the wires, they go into regular electrical outlet boxes, right? You'd see that on the inside of the equipment room, but I really don't think you care about that because it's an equipment room. Now the air circulation, you're right. I mean, you don't want those things starving for air, but that's as simple as moving. I mean, I would go for the approach of you move some of the air from the equipment room through the cubby/closet thing that's holding those accessible sources. That's what I wouldn't try to get the air from the theater into that cubby. I'd get the air from the equipment room into that, because that's small opening PC fans at the bottom and the top. That's all you need, just to you get some cool air circulating through there. You don't have to go nuts.
Really, all he needs to do is, I mean, just remember that room, that little equipment room, is not going to be making a ton of noise.
No.
Yeah. So what he really needs to do in order to make sure there's air circulating is, first of all, make sure the air outside of that room, outside that door, is reasonable level, and then just get a door with slats on it. Yeah, like you put in front of an air handler.
Louvered door, yeah.
And that will allow the air to circulate freely through. Any hot air will come out the top, any cool air will go in through the bottom. You don't have to do anything there. And then if it's sealed off from the rest of your room, that's even better.
Yeah, I'm saying just build yourself a cubby. Build a cubby, because then it's the exact same soundproofing construction as the room. You're just building this, thing that goes in on the back wall. You're just creating an extra space back there, as though the back wall for that little area were a little bit farther back in the room. That's
how much do you think this window door thing that we're talking about is going to cost? Reasonably. Construction, the amount of it, I mean, if it's a normal window that's going to be soundproof enough so that the sound's not going to be able to get out, it's not going to rattle around and stuff like that. How much do you think that's going to cost?
It should be under $100.
And then installation and everything else that goes along with that's going to do whatever it's going to do. Yeah. All right. Here's my suggestion: NVIDIA Shield, and just take all of your movies and put them on a server.
But that doesn't work for 4K Ultra HD Blu-rays, and it doesn't work for
yet. By the time he gets all this done, give him some time. They'll figure that out. So maybe not the NVIDIA Shield, but an HTPC. Okay, you're going for the ultimate theater experience here. You're putting a lot of work into this, and you're going to stop in the middle of a movie. Oh, you want to watch a different disc? Let me go get the disc for you, and then we'll put it in through my little window that I have here with these red blinky lights. Is that really the theater experience you're going for? I think the theater experience you're going for is, I never have to move from my seat. I have my remote control. It has access to all of my movies, which I have put on a server, and I can access not only here, but on anywhere in the world through the wonderful World Wide Web, where I can stream it directly to my phone or to my whatever, Chromecast, whatever I want to stream it to. That's what you want. You want to power up your theater, and then this, you get your, what's his name again? What's his name? I can't scroll it up. The Bill's Theater logo that you've had Fiverr guy make you a logo that you can splash up there at a bajillion pixels, right? 4K resolution. And then what would you like to watch today, Dave? Or Bill, like, oh, who should not be named. Why don't we watch Logan? And then up it pops as it goes and does all its thing. That's what you want. You don't want a little window where you're putting discs into things. That's not what you want. I think that for the cost of what you're going to do for all of this, just so you can see your equipment and occasionally access it, so you can put in discs, a server solution would be more to what you actually want than all of that.
If Apple can freaking get Atmos going on their iTunes selections, they've already got more Dolby Vision titles than Ultra HD Blu-ray does. Wouldn't really be the end of the world to just get your stuff off iTunes, as long as they get their Atmos going.
Okay. Lastly, just reiterating from last week, he wants to pre-wire his whole house for audio, low voltage, Ethernet, and hopefully future-proofing as well. Wire is cheap, and the time to do it was when all the walls are open, but that isn't exactly sure what to run. What should be his plan of attack?
This was when I was saying conduit.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about, conduit. Yeah, just run conduit to the places where you think things will want to be, and then you can pull whatever wires you want for later. I mean,
especially when future-proofing is part of this, when HDMI 2.1 is a consideration that's being brought up. I mean, like, you can't do anything right now about those things. You don't know what they're even going to require, but you can run conduit, and then you can pull the wire later.
Speaker wire, I don't think is going to change ever. Sure. So what you're really looking for is making sure you're running conduit from your projector to your equipment room. That has to have conduit there. And then if you are having entertainment units in other spaces that are all going to be you run conduit to that. You don't have to run conduit to the speaker, for speaker wire. I don't.
No,
think.
Not for speaker wire. I agree with that. Yeah.
But for anything else, Ethernet, yes, you should have at least one Ethernet port in every room of your house, and it should all run back so that you can hardwire into your your router.
Yeah.
You certainly don't want to have to rely, especially if you have a big house, which just sounds like it's going to be. The cost of setting up a mesh network so that you can make sure you have full access all over your house and the garage and everything else. It's just cheaper to run $2 worth of Ethernet cable to get that done. So,
but yeah, I mean, he was in his email. He's like, "Oh, I could run like open-ended fiber optic cable everywhere." I'm like, to what end though? You don't know what you're connecting to what. Like if you have the conduit there, you can pull whatever you need in the future. So like, yeah, I totally agree. Run your Ethernet cable to every room, and then right beside that, have a conduit, and voila! Now whatever you need to run, you can pull later.
Barry has an L-shaped basement room. Once you come down the stairs and turn to the right, that's a 16-foot wide, 13-foot long theater area. Behind his theater area is another 14-foot, 31-foot section of the basement, creating the L shape. He doesn't have a door on either end of the stairway, but he heard us talking about doors so much that he's already in the process of adding one. Yay, doors. Okay. I'm looking here. So he walks out. So were you showing this image? So he walks down the stairs. He turns to the right. He's walking into this home theater, walks through his home theater. And then there's it's like a game room back there. And then a kids room
over to the left.
So does that say something restroom? I don't know. Anyways, okay. I'm scrolling. Oh, wait, there's images too. So the ceiling is 7.5 feet throughout the basement, but he has a large support beam with the support column that basically runs right above and beside his primary seat. And there's an unfortunate soffit on the ceiling in front of his seat that's mostly hollow. There's only there to conceal a pipe that hangs down roughly 8 inches from the ceiling. Wow, that was well conceived. He'd like to expand the sound to 7.2.4 Atmos configuration. So where should he place his overhead Atmos speakers? And what should he do about those soffits covering the overhead support beam and pipes? Front heights mounted to the front wall seem like one fairly easy option. What about the top middles or top rears? If we were to mount them behind the support beam, that large soffit would block the sound. If you mount them directly on or below the support beam, they'd be quite low. He could mount them in between the beam and soffit pipe, but what would that do to the sound? So let me take a look here.
Yeah, no, that pipe soffit, that's not how you finish a room. That's poorly conceived and constructed. I'm afraid to say that's just coming halfway out into the room and just ending like that, and right in front of where the light fixture is. Like that is a bit unfortunate.
Yeah. Okay, somebody did this. Is a DIY maybe did this?
I don't know exactly what went on there, but yeah, I mean, inside of that pipe soffit, there is. I mean, it's just a pipe, and there's a fair amount of space going on inside of that soffit.
Well, it looks like it's got to be some sort of air handler, right? Is that the air duct?
Nope, I'm pretty sure that's just there to cover that pipe.
Oh, so there's all that is like pipe, a pipe.
It's just a pipe in there. Yeah.
That's stupid. All right. Let's see here. Where is he going to? He went 7.2.4.
Yes.
So looking at where he's got things, first of all, I don't know about this.
Yeah,
so the front heights, you could do clearly from when you're sitting, he could do front heights with like the prime elevation speakers right up in that corner right there. But I would straight up put, because he sits in the recliner, right? Not in
in the forward facing.
Yeah, I would do top middles right in that thing over your head,
right in that beam overhead.
That's where I would put him.
Now I don't know. I mean that beam might be quite full. Like that's the thing that's holding up the rest of his house. So
you could put him to either side of you. Yeah, it might not be. You could, in which case it's just really easy to put him up there because you just you couldn't put in walls in there. I don't think.
Right. Yeah. In ceilings, I don't know what you're going to be drilling into in there. So
I would assume in ceilings are out for any of these things that we're talking about because we got no idea what's going on up there.
Yeah.
But so your option could be an on ceiling option like the little birds, the little birds, or something like that, or any sort of like those little itty bitty cubic speakers that you might want to put up there, or you could put to the sides. I can't tell to the left side, but to the right side for sure, you could put another prime elevation speaker up there.
Oh, okay, on the side walls and angled down. Yeah. So I mean, something like NHT Super Zeros mounted facing straight down from that overhead thing that could work. The other thing you could do is you could suspend the top middle, they'd end up being called top middles because they're
Yeah,
going to be
this is all
right
top
overhead or
middles.
just slightly behind
Yeah.
you could suspend them from just behind that overhead support beam so that they basically come down to the same height as that support beam. I mean, that's one other thing you could, if you don't want little
Element.
speakers
I mean,
actually hanging down from that support beam.
you could actually just drill them straight into that support beam, on the
Yeah.
side, and
I
then
mean,
have them coming around the edge. We just don't know what's in that support beam. I mean,
right.
it's clearly a support beam, which
Yes.
we don't know how much you're going to be putting a couple holes in it. So
Regardless, I wouldn't
it?
put any of your overhead speakers in front of that support beam.
No.
I'd either put them, like Tom says, on the side walls as prime elevations, on the support beam itself, or hanging down just a little bit behind the support beam. That's where I'd go.
Is this the pipe I'm seeing in this picture right here?
Here's the pipe. That's all that's inside of that small soffit that's in front. This is all that's inside. You're seeing inside.
So he was thinking he could tear down the smaller soffit covering the pipe and cover the pipe with something less intrusive. Could that maybe help his acoustics and Atmos speaker placement? I don't really think it's going to do anything for speaker placement or your acoustics, to be honest with you, unless this thing is ringing. I would...
You could make it look a little prettier. That's doable.
You could make it smaller. I mean, just on general principle, and extend it. So that it goes all the way across the.
Yes.
Just halfway through the room is really irritating. Just looking at that makes me slightly angry at whoever did it.
That's not how you're supposed to soffit things. That's not proper design going on there. I mean, the problem is you're not allowed to lower the entire ceiling down to that height because that's actually below code. So that's the issue.
But why is there so much dead space in there?
I don't know.
So much.
Yeah.
They just didn't want to cut those beams or whatever.
Well, they wanted to make it the same height as the support beam. That seems to have been their goal. Because that soffit is down at the same height as the support beam, and that's
maybe it can't go all the way across because it hits the stairs or something. Maybe there is no all the way across.
Well, plus, I mean, I don't know. All the way across also looks weird.
Well, could they taper the end? So that at least goes into the ceiling, so it's not just like this block.
I mean, I don't.
It's like
really
an extra
know.
Lego that like a kid makes something. There's an extra Lego. You're like, what's that for? They're like, oh, that's the one. I'm like,
I don't really know a great solution. I'm a little bit at a loss because I mean, what do you do to make that look great? But
what you don't do is open up any of those pipes because I don't know what's in them, but it probably don't smell good. Let's talk. What could we? I mean, just let's pretend that he can't do any of this stuff.
Sure.
The pipe has to be enclosed, right? It has to be enclosed. We can't open this up and like put vents.
No, I mean, I guess you could put a suspended ceiling, but no, something's got to go over that pipe. You can't just have that exposed in your ceiling.
Well, I'm not saying exposed. I'm saying like, let's say we put, we took off the drywall on the front and the back of it.
Uh-huh.
So the front and the back, and then we shoved that thing full of insulation, and then we put a false, like a covering on the front and the back to allow air through with, fabric. You've basically just put a huge bass trap in the center. You made that into a huge bass trap. This, by far, the world's ugliest bass trap. There's no doubt about that. But guess what? It was ugly before we got it. We didn't make it any uglier. Okay, we might have made it a little bit uglier.
I mean, what I would do if I were finishing this basement fully is just suspended ceiling across the whole darn basement.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
it's going to be already a 7.5 foot, right? You're going to be down to 7, a little bit less than 7 feet.
A little bit less than 7 feet, just at allowable code. Yes, but which is why basements have that very often, is they just lower the whole ceiling down to where it needs to be for the lowest point. Yeah, I know. None of this.
What is that thing inside there? What is the thing? It looks like is that a Nerf bullet? It looks like a Nerf bullet inside there.
A Nerf bullet. Something went.
Why didn't he move the Nerf bullet before he took the picture? That's the real
scale. I don't know.
The quarter in the next one. He'd like to hide the equipment at the front of his room, so he's thinking about constructing an acoustically transparent false wall and then acoustically treating the whole front wall with insulation. What are our thoughts? Isn't there a door right there? That's my first thought.
Yeah,
how are you going to do that?
There's a door, and I assume the idea would be to get rid of the TV and have a projection screen instead. I gotta tell you, I'm not a fan of this idea. This isn't where I would be advocating for a false wall. I don't quite.
No, I don't really see how that's going to work. Okay, you've got an L-shaped room here. Let's go back to that. You see where that big empty thing that says kids' toys are? What's down there? Can we use that? Well, I know. First of all, I'd rather walk through kids' toy to get to my home theater than go have my children walking through my home theater to get to their toys.
There's that.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
So what's down that aisle? Can we just move this whole thing? Because then if at the end of the kids' toy room, there's a wall that we can do something with, then you've got a wall there with behind you, you've got a bathroom, I think. I can't really tell. It says something shop and then restroom from what I can tell. Behind you've got a bathroom. You have an open area for the kids' room. You know what you need there? A wall and a door. And now you've got an enclosed rectangular space.
Yeah.
That doesn't have a stupid soffit in the middle of it coming out.
That's true.
Is this an option?
Who knows what's down there? Maybe there's more pipes and ducts.
It could be like a maze of ducts just coming down. Like it's like a very bad Minecraft.
Yeah, we don't have a picture of that. But yeah, I mean, assuming he keeps things where they are right now, that is not where I'd be putting a false. I mean, if you want to have an acoustically transparent screen roll down from your ceiling to come in front of your existing speakers and equipment, that I'm all for. For sure, have an acoustically transparent screen come down, but I would not construct a false wall here.
You know what you could do? Yeah. You could take all of your equipment and build that soffit out further and shove it all in there. You know, the one that's on the roof? Just put all the equipment in there. And then you have a new space up above. Right.
It's still going to be a very low ceiling, dude.
I'm joking. It's just, if he wants to hide it, why'd you hide it in there with the pipe? Still got plenty of room in there. Can you imagine? It's all just like cocked to the side, just all shoved in there. No, the false wall is not really an option here.
That doesn't make sense to me. That's not. If you want the screen to come down, by all means, have a screen come down. Yeah,
that's perfectly reasonable. But again, you're going to be shooting around that soffit thing that's hanging down. So either you have a short throw projector that you put in front of the soffit.
Or you coffee table mount it. That's also doable.
Or you coffee table. I hate that. I've always hated that idea. Or it's shooting basically anytime anybody stands up, you're going to block 75% of the screen. So I mean,
what's in that kid's room?
I don't love that. What's in that kid's room? It's my answer to this question. How are we doing time? I still really need some water. We're up 2/3 of the way through this nonsense. Steve got through Steve, and then I realized I was at the end. Steve has a dedicated theater basement. Do you have a soffit? Does it extend all the way across your room? Because that's the real question here.
I'm not seeing it in the photos.
Lately, he's been finding his KEF Cube 2 subwoofers to be the weakest link in this system, since they only play down to 38 hertz, and he's looking to upgrade. I would be too. The price is attractive on the SVS SB12 NSD, but would be worth extra money for the SB2000s or PC2000/PC2000s to get the low bass he's after. The theater is enclosed. It's 16 by 15 by just under 8 feet. 16 by 15 by just under 8 feet.
Now, I can say right away, there's no reason to spend more on SB2000s over SB12 NSDs. That's no sort of valuable upgrade.
No,
like with the current sale price on the SB12 NSDs, that one wouldn't be anything.
Why isn't he considering the PB12 NSDs? Are they too big? Because he's considering.
Well, they're not on sale anymore. They sold out of those. Those are gone.
Okay. That makes sense. All right.
Now a pair of PC2000s in here, because this is just shy of 2,000 cubic feet, which is a medium-sized room by every account. Now, the SB12 NSDs in a medium-sized room are completely competent. But for that really low 20 hertz stuff, like if you want to get the full pressurization thing we've been talking about, and I happen to know from Steven's replies, he is kind of interested in that.
Okay.
A pair of PC2000s in here, or PB2000s, of course, would same thing. Like they would crush this room.
Yeah, it's for me, like when I was reading the dimensions of your room, the 16 by 15 by 8, I was looking at that the sealed box versions, like the 1000s. I know that would not be okay with.
I mean,
The
PB 1000s, PB ported box 1000s in this
yes,
room size wouldn't be bad at all.
I think the ported box 1000s would be fine.
Yes, they would, yes.
But the 2000s play lower.
Yes.
Not a lot, but enough that it makes a difference, and it's worth the money in my case. Yeah, it's too bad those PB 12 NSDs sold out, because that would be the easy choice.
Yeah, that would be the easy choice. Yeah, if the PB 12 NSDs were still around on sale for $500 a piece, bingo bango, you're done. That's super easy. I mean, so the PB 2000s / PC 2000s are actually a little bit better than the PB 12 NSDs were, but of course, significantly more expensive without the sale price.
Right.
So yeah, so if it's between SB 12 NSDs on sale for $400 a pop and PB / PC 2000s, you're not getting nothing for that upgrade. SB 2000s makes no sense because you're barely getting an upgrade for considerably more money, so don't do that. But going to the ported ones, yeah, in that really low 20 hertz stuff, you're getting the full pressurization if you go with the ported ones. You're getting something for your money.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with that. I would like to say that you could save the money and go with the SB 12 NSDs, but
you totally could. Like, they're not gonna let you down if what you're looking for is the tactile hit you in the chest 40 to 60 hertz stuff. They're gonna.
Let's put it this way. At this point, okay, how comfortable are you with lying to yourself? That's what I'm going to ask you, sir. Because what it comes down to is you're going from a subwoofer that was tapering off at 38 hertz. Now, at 38 hertz, no matter what subwoofer of the ones that you have chosen you are going to be experiencing considerably more bass.
Mm-hmm.
And a considerably lower bass. You are going to be extremely happy with any of your purchases. Now, will you have buyer's remorse? That I can't tell you. So, can you lie to yourself and say that the SB12 NSDs will give you everything you want, and that Tom and Rob, they're just trying to make you spend more money for not a lot of value? If you can say that to yourself, you should get the SB12s, because I guarantee you are going to be impressed.
Oh yeah, compared to Cube 2s, that's going to be night
and
day.
You are going to be absolutely blown away. You're going to be over the moon. But there's going to be that doubt in the back of your mind, I think, and that's why you have to go with the PC.
Honestly, look at this theater. Look at this theater. This is a nice theater. He has put effort into this theater. A couple of PC 2000s in there. There will be no doubts of any kind. Yeah, there you go. That's my answer.
Bobby. It's hard for me to say Bobby and not think of Supernatural. Bobby is at a crossroads. Well, that didn't help. Okay. He's ready to upgrade his 106-inch manual pull-down screens from Elite to a 120-inch tab-tensioned motorized screen, but he's torn between two options. Bobby's in Canada, so for motorized tab-tension screens, a LunaVision, which we have talked about here, is less expensive than Seymour AV north of the border. The Seymour AV is never really the cheapest option, but go on. The Titan line from a LunaVision is a LunaVision or Luna?
I don't know. I always say a LunaVision because it's easier to say than a LunaVision.
Seems like LunaVision. Seems like a good value pick, $750 Canadian, which is like, I think, $45 American. However, since he expects to have this screen for a while, he's wondering if it's worth it to pay nearly twice as much as $1,400 Canadian and get the reference studio model. Is that also from the LunaVision?
That's also from a LunaVision, yes. They have two different series. Yeah.
The reference has a 3-year warranty versus the 1 year for the Titan, which is nice, but he's mostly concerned with screen quality. He doesn't mind paying more if it'll be worthwhile. But is there that much of a visual upgrade between the two screens? He has a BenQ W1070, doesn't use 3D, no foreseeable plans to upgrade to 4K, has full light control, so he doesn't need the extra screen gain of the Titan, which is 1.2 over 1.0. How far away is he sitting? Do we know? We don't know.
No, we don't know the distance. But I mean, these are both just basically your flat white screens. These aren't acoustically transparent.
These aren't acoustically transparent or anything like that?
These are just plain white screens.
So what's the difference then? I mean, what's the reference studio model has got a finer weave? I mean, or finer texture or something like that?
Well, yeah. So in their reference series from a LunaVision, that was the series they started with. And that was their, take anybody on. We will let this screen compare with anybody. They're basically targeting Stuart Film Screen. They're like, measure it. calibrate to it, do all the things. This is a reference quality screen. That's what they're promoting with their reference, aptly named series. Now, the Titan series came in kind of mostly aimed at like classrooms and things like that. It's their more affordable, cheaper case, noisier motor, smaller roller, all the things to bring the price down. Cheaper vinyl screen that doesn't measure as accurately as the reference one, but it's like half the price, right? Totally applicable for a lot of uses, right? So is there an argument for getting the reference? Well, is there an argument for getting a Stuart film screen over a silver ticket screen? Yeah, there's arguments to be made for that. If you want this like completely reference grade, completely neutral, a perfect Lambertian diffuser, like all of that stuff, all the things you would bring in a pro calibrator to measure.
Right.
That's what the reference is targeting. Plus, it's the bulked up case, the larger roller, the quieter motor, all of those things. Really tough to say. I mean, with the type of projector that he has, with no intention to upgrade, the Titan is the one that goes hand in hand with that level of projector, right? If you're like, I have an $8,000 projector, should I get the reference grade? I'd be like, yeah, probably you should. Mm-hmm. But when you're talking about a $750 projector, like that's kind of what the Titan line was meant to go along with. Yeah, it's just your standard vinyl white screen. If you completely measured it with a light meter, it's not exactly color neutral. It's not a perfect Lambertian diffuser, all of those things. But it's still a very nice white screen that has all the features you want for like half the price. Myself, I think the Titan is the appropriate choice here, but an argument can be made for the reference if you're like, this is the last screen I'm ever going to buy. But how do you know? You get a larger room, you want a bigger screen.
Yeah, I think that's where I fall too. I fall in the you're going to live with this screen for a while. What is a while to you?
Yeah,
and how confident are you in that you're going to be living in it? Are you going to upgrade your projector before you upgrade your screen again? If that's the case, where do you think you might land then? How long do you think this screen is supposed to last you? Because clearly Illuminavision thinks that the Titans should last you about a year before something could possibly go wrong. Whereas the reference one should last you at least 3 years before they can foresee anything going wrong. That's why they give you those warranties. Mm-hmm. So when is this upgrade going to happen? Is it ever going to happen? Are you just going to keep throwing bulbs into this projector until someone blows dust in it and forget out the cobwebs, and then you upgrade at that point? That's the question that you ask. And then you take and say, okay, if I'm going to be living with this projector, and I might go through this screen, I might go through 2 more projectors before I even think of upgrading my screen, I think it's worth it to buy the better one.
I mean, that's about where I lie. It's like you've already built the full dedicated room. You know you're going to be staying in this theater. This is the screen size you want. This is going to be the next 5 to 10 years of your life. It's like you can make the argument for the reference screen. If there's any chance that this is going to be changing, then I'm like, just save the money, because the Titan's a nice screen. It's a completely nice screen.
Right. I think it just sort of like you have to average out over the number of years you're planning on using it.
Yeah.
Daniel has up-firing modules on his front mains, and so far, Atmos modules on his front mains, and so far they've been underwhelming. These are the ones that you put them on top of your speakers, and they fire up into the ceiling, and they bounce off the ceiling, and they come back to your seat.
That's correct.
Or so they say. Anyways, he's found them underwhelming. Their sound, but it's not very noticeable. He has 11-foot ceilings and sits 11 feet from the front speakers, which may be part of the problem. Might be. There's some debate there. Daniel has a Denon AVR X2200W that can only run 1 pair of Atmos speakers, so he'd like to get the most effect he can. Would he benefit from switching to front heights? If so, how high should they be placed? And would Little Birds or in-wall speakers from Outdoor Speaker Depot or Monoprice pair well with his Yamaha speakers? Top middles would probably be better, but aren't really an option due to the placement of a ceiling fan and really not wanting to cut into the ceiling drywall. Cutting into the front wall is fine, though. And we've got a picture here.
Yeah.
A picture. It's just that
I
one
wouldn't
picture.
be doing any in-walls, dude. Like that doesn't make sense to me. I do something that goes on the wall. That could make sense. I mean, honestly, you could take the upward firing modules that you have and mount them high up on the wall. They'll function just fine as front heights.
I would totally do that first. Yeah. Like, I would totally take what you've got and literally get like one of those 3M sticky hanger thingy jobby thingies and just stick them up there for a little bit and see, because I don't think this is going to be worth it. Okay,
Yeah,
I don't think
yeah.
front heights by themselves are going to give you the upgrade you're looking for. You are looking for top middles.
Yeah, you're looking for
I've
something more
lived with front
noticeable
heights.
directly overhead. That sounds
I've
like
lived with front heights, and every once in a while I go, "Oh yeah, they're up there."
Right.
That's my experience with front heights. Now, the speakers I've got are very good. They're the prime elevation speakers, but they just don't, by themselves, they're just not that much to do.
Yeah.
There's just they expand the sound a little bit up. This is not going to give you what you want. This is a waste, I think. I think even taking your speakers, your current speakers that you have, and mounting them somehow to your ceiling, even, I mean, because these things are tiny and light.
Yeah.
Right. I know it's going to look stupid with the speaker wire going up there. Believe me, I know. I'm literally looking at speaker wire on my ceiling right now and thinking how stupid it looks. But it's going to give you more of the experience that you want. And I too struggle with a ceiling fan that's in a non-optimal location, and I'm working my way around it. I think you can do the same.
The other thing you could try is, I don't know what your situation is for your surround speakers, but you could put the upward firing modules on top of your surround speakers and call them Dolby Surround instead of Dolby Front.
Yes, that's true.
That'll help give you a little bit more of a, oh, that's actually above me effect instead of in front of me effect.
The other thing that I'm worried about here is that these upward firing modules, Rob is of the opinion, and this makes a lot of sense to me as well, that the bouncing off the ceiling is more for mental effect than is actually doing anything audibly.
I think it's mostly that head-related transfer function filter that's applied when you label them as Dolby speakers in your AV receiver.
So they're playing with the phase in order to make you think it's coming from above you, sort of thing. But you were sitting very far away from them, and there is the difference in the height of your ceiling, which is also helping. So also consider changing the angle or height of those speakers so that to see if that makes a difference. You might find that by just raising those speakers up higher than where they are right now gives you more of this pseudo height sound that you're looking for. So I would play with what you got for a very long time before I ever made a purchase.
Yep.
I think you're right at the beginning of this, and I honestly, if you told me right now, hey, I just got a bonus for $500, I got nothing to spend it on, I want to buy some height speakers, do you think I should? Or which speakers do I think you should buy? I would say none. I would think it would be a bad purchase. I'm sorry, I just the way I feel. Shane in New Zealand. So yay. Going down under again. Shane is looking at building some DIY acoustic panels. He's been reading Geek's recommendations for DIY materials, and the best choices seem to be Owens Corning, a 703 or 705, or a cloth installation, 1.6 pounds or 3 pounds. Anyways, that's the Rockwell stuff.
No, the Knauf is the recycled blue jeans.
It's the blue jean stuff. That's right. Owens Corning doesn't seem to be available in New Zealand, but there is a Knauf distributor. You can also get Roxol if that's a good option as well, which it is. It seems that density is the most important factor. He's not sure how much density is needed. He'll be building broadband absorption panels for now, at least. So which installation is best? Honestly, most of them perform pretty similarly. I did not use Owens Corning when I built mine. I believe I used Roxol Rockwell stuff, which is just another brand, and it's basically the same, has the same properties, measures very similarly to Owens Corning. The Knauf stuff is kind of cool because it's recycled and blue jeans and all that. So, but they're all doing the same thing. So, and the poundage, isn't that just about how thick it is, though?
That's about the density, and I can see where that thought line comes in, but it actually isn't really about the density of the insulation. It's just about the literal thickness.
Yeah.
How many inches from the front of the panel to the back of the panel makes way more difference than the density of that panel. The density of the panel makes almost no difference at all.
As the sound waves are going through, their energy is being used up by vibrating the fibers within the panel. So the further through that panel it has to go, the more chance it has to transfer from the air pocket to the fiber back to the air pocket to the fiber back to the air pocket to the fiber as it's going through. And every time it does that, it's losing energy. You know, you know this. You know this by, I mean, heck, you're a kid and you're walking on the train tracks. You put your ear on the train track to hear whether or not there's a train coming. You did that because sound travels very well down that solid towards you. But as soon as it has to transfer the air, it loses so much energy that you can no longer hear it until the train is much, much closer. Same thing. This is what's going on here.
Yeah,
so
honestly,
it's just a thickness.
You can use the pink stuff. It's just that using the pink stuff, it doesn't hold its shape particularly well. So that's why, like, the Owens Corning, the Roxul, this particular Knauf stuff, all of it holds its shape a little bit better. So that's easier to make panels out of because it doesn't sag over time sitting inside of your little frame and its fabric, right? So that's mostly what that's about, right? You're seeing a lot of these, they do have a higher density than the pink stuff, but that's mainly so that they can hold their shape a little bit better. That's what actually counts more. So all you're worried about is the thickness from front to back, 2 inches or 4 inches or 6 inches or whatever, and then something that isn't going to just sag inside of whatever frame that you make. Other than that, any insulation will do.
Yeah. So in the future, you might also build some corner-based traps. Will you need different insulation than for the broadband panels?
Nope, just thicker.
Nope. Yeah, a lot of people just cut it into triangles and just stack it from floor to ceiling. So just do that. Do we have enough time for John?
I have whatever time you have, man. I'd like to get as many as we can. We have 22 on the list this week, so it's.
Well, the 13 is pretty good. It's a good chunk out of that. John is wondering about why 2 subs in the room have the effect that they do. When placing 2 subs across the room from each other, how do they work to flatten out the bass response? And where does the extra 3 dB come from? Does one sub fill in the dips while the other sub is netting the 3 dB increase only in the frequencies that aren't attenuated by room modes? Or do they work together to cancel room modes so that they both play flat, netting a 3 dB increase across all frequencies?
I can give you an inaccurate but easy to visualize explanation.
Is you going to do the ripples in the water thing?
No, not quite. I mean, it's akin to that.
Okay, go on.
So, okay. Let's say you have one subwoofer on one side of the room and it sends out its bass sound wave. All right. So that bass sound wave travels across the room, bounces off the wall on the other side, and comes back to the subwoofer. Now, in a room mode situation, what's happening is the sound wave that bounced off the far wall and came back happens to perfectly overlap or perfectly inverse the sound wave that's still traveling from the subwoofer to the wall. So one sound, or the same sound wave, but across different time, but the sound wave's going from the subwoofer to the far wall and then bouncing off that far wall and coming back. And in a room mode situation, it's either perfectly overlapping or perfectly the inverse, canceling it out, creating a null. Now, when you put the second subwoofer on that opposite wall, you can think we had this one that went across, bounced off the wall and came back and either perfectly doubled up or was perfectly inverse. The subwoofer on the other side of the room is like a third wave, which is always going to be the inverse of that, right? So if you had a double up and then here comes this third wave, which is the inverse of that, it brought you back to linear. If you had it bounced off the wall and created a null, now you've got the inverse of the null wave, which is the original wave coming back again. So that's the explanation of how the subwoofer on the opposite side of the room prevents you from having the room mode. You can think of it like 3 waves. There's the original wave plus the reflected wave plus the third wave coming from the second subwoofer, which is always perfectly the inverse of the other 2. So whatever the situation was, it brings you back to linear. It either brings you back to the original wave that you wanted, or it takes what was a doubled up wave and cancels one of those to bring you back to the original wave. So it's not fully accurate because, of course, we got 3 dimensions to deal with. Right. We have, oddities in the walls. The walls aren't perfect reflectors. All this stuff comes into it. But that's the basic reason why the 2 subwoofers directly across the room from one another work to cancel out the room modes. It's like having 3 waves instead of 2.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh, where does the 3 dB increase come from? Right. Wanted to know that. So you still have these 3 waves that are going. So remember the at one point those waves are interacting, but they pass right through each other as though they don't exist. So they're just traveling back and forth across your room, back and forth across your room. Now, if you had two of them side by side, you'd expect a doubling of the sound, this 6 decibel increase. You put them on opposite sides of the room, and you still have all the distance losses, absorption losses throughout your room, all of that stuff. So you're getting an overall increase in volume. You have more sound pressure in this room, but that sound pressure isn't all originating from one point. It's originating from 2 points that are across the room from one another, with you somewhere in between them. So the whole sound pressure of the room went up, but you're still getting all the distance losses and everything. So it's not a 6 decibel increase, it's a 3 decibel increase. But overall, the pressure went up.
And there's the white papers and stuff that were written by Floyd Toole,
Harman,
Toole
yeah.
and Harman. And
it's
all
not
that,
actually Floyd Toole, it's Sean Olive and Todd Welty,
right.
but from Harman there, yeah.
From his, based on his research. So you can look a lot of that stuff up as far as how this stuff works as well. And it gets technical and hard to decipher, but if you're really into it, it'll explain to you exactly how putting multiple subs in a room works and how their modeling, showed it would work, and how their in-room tests bore out their predictions based on the modeling, the computer modeling they did. We'll do one more question, then we're done.
Okay.
Keith is trying to decide between a 65-inch LG OLED or a 75-inch Sony LCD. His theater is 16 feet wide and 19 feet long. He has 2 rows of seats, 4 seats per row. The first row is 8.5 feet from the front wall, and the second row is 15 feet from the front wall. But he uses an articulating wall mount that extends the TV 3 feet from the front wall. So his front row can be as close as 5.5 feet from eyes to screen. He has a 65-inch Samsung LCD right now. It was one of the earlier models that used Samsung's Evolution kit to add HDR10 support. It can hit about 400 nits, and HDR does look better than SDR in Keith's opinion. That's high dynamic range versus standard dynamic range. But his room is light controlled, and in the darkness, black bars appear gray, and he'd really appreciate better blacks, better contrast, and better HDR highlights. He likes the larger field of view, about 46 degrees, and that he gets by sitting in the front row and extending the TV from the wall. But his wife prefers to sit in the second row, as she doesn't like having the TV screen closer than about 10 feet from her eyes. He's found that most of his guests find 5.5 feet to be uncomfortably close as well, although some of them do like the larger field of view. So, could we go over some advantages and disadvantages of each choice to help him decide? Decide what? Oh, wait, he wants to get which
65-inch OLED or a 75-inch LCD.
So, if you get the 75-inch TV, and because right now he's got a 65-inch, he pulls it all the way forward, and his wife sits in the back row.
Yes.
So, if he had the 75-inch, he would leave it pushed against the wall?
Well, so this is the thing. So going from 65-inch
I think it's still going to be too close for his wife. If it's against the wall, I think his wife is still not going to want to sit in the front row.
Yeah. If you go from 65-inch to 75-inch, if you want to retain the same field of view that you enjoy sitting, so Keith is sitting in the front row, pulling the TV 3 feet closer to him. It's only 5.5 feet away from his eyes, right? With a 65-inch. If you want to have that exact same field of view with a 75-inch TV, the TV will be 6.5 feet away from your eyes instead of 5.5 feet. Oh. It's still pretty darn close. It can be a foot further away, but it's not getting anywhere close to 10 feet away from your eyes, which means your wife's still sitting in the second row while you sit in the first row, and you pulled the TV 2 feet away from the front wall instead of 3 feet away from the front wall. But I'm not seeing the gigantic difference here, right? You get me? Like, I'm not seeing how this really affects anything.
I don't think anything's going to, no matter what, he's going to want it to be closer than his wife's going to want it to be.
Yeah.
Right? So if 65 inches does the trick for them as of now, and
the OLED looks better.
The OLED looks better, then why would you go with anything else? Because if you get a screen that's big enough, let's just say that you got a screen that's big enough that it could sit right on the front wall, none of this articulated mount garbage, and you're comfortable with it, your wife is not going to be sitting next to you.
Yeah.
Because you want it to be a lot closer than I think most people want it to be. That's even closer than I'm comfortable with, and that's saying something. So I mean, go with the OLED. Go with the OLED.
Yeah, I mean, if it's gonna be this close to you anyway, I mean, the OLED has all the picture features that you want. I mean, it's down to the pixel, right? We're not talking about local dimming with even several hundred zones of local dimming. This is every single pixel is individually controllable. The blacks are perfect. Like, you can't get any blacker. The image quality of the OLED makes it worthwhile, and going to the larger size, I don't think it gets you any of the things you wanted.
What does he want? I don't understand from the question what he wants. Does he want a magical screen that allow him to sit next to his wife and be as big as he wants? You know what you need, dude? Magnifying glasses.
Well,
I'm not joking.
A projection setup, right? I mean,
how is that going to make any difference? A projection setup. If it's big enough for him,
move his seats. I don't know.
If it's big enough for him, it's too small for his wife, or too big for his wife.
Well, his wife doesn't object to the field of view. She objects to the TV literally being only 5.5 feet away from her eyes. Right? So you could put a projection screen on the front wall, move your front row back to 10 feet away from the front wall, move the second row back to,
I dispute that. Is that because I didn't read that in that question? That
she didn't. She doesn't object.
She doesn't
to the
mind
field
the field of view.
Yeah, she objects to the screen being only 5.5 feet away from her eyes. She's like, the screen is just too close to me. If it's 10 feet away but the same field of view, that's okay. But what I'm saying is the 75-inch screen only gets you to 6.5 feet. So what did that get?
No, I hear what you're saying. So so your solution here is a project. If, and I say this is a big if. Yes, she may say that's just too close to me, but let's say we get you a screen that you could put 10 feet away from you.
Yeah.
A projection screen that you're comfortable with. I'm feeling your wife's still not going to be comfortable with it.
Possibly.
I that is my prediction. I might be wrong, and you can ask my wife. I am wrong all the freaking time. So she will be happy to tell you in detail all the times I have been wrong about things just today. So I have a feeling that she is not going to. This is not a situation of, my mom told me if I sit too close to a screen, the photons are going to come out and make me blind. I don't think that's what this is. I think this is it just feels so close. I have to go this. So I'm going to sit in the back row.
I get that.
I think that it's going to feel so close. It's going to be too big no matter what. But your answer is not a larger flat panel. Your answer is a projection. So
yeah. Going to the 75 doesn't make sense to me. I don't think it gets you where you want to be. Plus, there are some really nice looking 75-inch LCDs. I'm not saying that, but the OLED is still better. It's still better. So if you're not going to get the whole seating distance field of view thing that you want from going to 75 inches, and you have to take even a small hit on the picture quality, why do that? Why not just get the best picture quality? That's the OLED.
Yeah. All right. So everybody else is going to answer next week. You want to tell everybody who we're answering next week?
Yes, sir. So we got Infinite Gary. That's first up, but it's a short question, so that's okay. Travis has a short question as well. Ted is back. That is Ted. Our Ted. Who made our music.
Hey, Ted.
We haven't mentioned that in a long time. Ted made the music at the end of our podcast. That's his music.
At the beginning of the podcast. Do you remember
that? Wasn't that some thing you found?
No, this is actually. I take it back. You know what? Austin's the one that got the music for the beginning of the podcast.
Oh, really?
No, I don't know where you got that from.
I didn't even know that. That's new information.
That's true. There you go.
Ted made the one at the end. Ted's question next week, short one. Greg is on there, and I think is Greg's the super duper long one. Yes, Greg's is the super duper long one, and he's got a whole thing with hiring a contractor. He had some water damage, so.
I remember that question.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it goes all the way up to K, so that's a lengthy one. Weldon, I've already talked to on Twitter, so that's okay. Bobby, Tyson W, and Scott B. That's all the names.
All right.
Oh, that's a lot. And okay, do have to say, Christmas falls on a Monday. Boxing Day falls on the Tuesday. I don't think we're recording a podcast that week.
No, we're taking Christmas off.
We're taking the Christmas week off.
Well, we can discuss doing a Christmas podcast at my convenience and your convenience based on what our schedules look like. If my wife decides to take the kids someplace or something, I will let you know and say, hey, I've got a couple hours free. And then we can maybe do something.
We'll see. So we're here next week.
I will use you as an excuse. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So we're here next week, and we'll try to get through as many as we can. But yeah, Christmas week, don't expect us. We might, but don't expect it. Yeah. Just
So
to give
what did you get for Christmas presents for people? I mean, like what kind of AV gifts would you be buying?
Oh, I don't think I got AV stuff for anybody. My nephew's getting a SNES Mini, the little classic system, and a game for his Nintendo Switch. So that's the most tech stuff that I'm getting anybody.
I got lots of Echo Dots. I've got 4 of them.
Yeah,
I got to figure out who I'm going to give them to. I've also got
I asked for an Echo Dot. So
you
I
might
be getting an Echo Dot. I don't have an Echo Dot yet. They just came out in Canada. They just came.
If you don't have an Echo Dot, I will give you an Echo Dot. I will send you one. They
just came to Canada. We didn't have any infrastructure.
Who were you talking to before that? What do you mean no infrastructure?
We didn't know the whole
internet.
It didn't go anywhere. There was no Canadian she who shall not be named. Just came.
What does she have? They're waiting to pronounce the about instead of whatever. It just goes to the same place everything else goes. Why would it have to go someplace else?
All of our services are different up here. Amazon Prime is a completely different. It's completely separate service up here.
I just find that very disturbing and odd.
I wasn't using.
All she does is go to Wikipedia most of the time. She just goes to Wikipedia. I mean, you have Wikipedia in Canada. You don't have a special Wikipedia. It's different from our Wikipedia.
Man, do they beg us for money? But
they are big time on the money train right now.
The most voice stuff I did was my Xbox One. That was the most voice stuff I did, and I never even turned on Cortana. It was just the original Xbox One voice controls. So that's the most voice I've been doing.
All righty then. Let's thank our listeners of the week. We're going to thank Tyson for going to www.avrant.com and clicking on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link. Gave us a PayPal donation. We also want to thank our 39 patrons, including Barry, Carl, and Weldon. Thank all of you for your donations. And if you would like to donate to the podcast, we would appreciate that as well. All goes into our coffers to help pay for all of our stuff. And one day we will ride fat on our AV Rant dollars and buy an island someplace just for speakers and subwoofers.
Wow. That would take a long time. But Tyson, thank you very much for your donation. Barry, Carl, Weldon, thanks so much for being patrons over at patreon.com/AVRant Podcast. And thanks so much to all of our other 36 other patrons.
That's right. We also want to thank Greg and Tyson for talking us up to Accessories for Less and HSU, respectively.
Yeah, Greg, Tyson, thank you very much for talking us up to those retailers.
All right. And if you want your question answered on this podcast, all you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. We hope to hear from you very soon. My name is Tom Andry. Wait a second. I messed up the end.
Wow, was that a weird ending? What's going on?
What happened?
I don't know. Christmas is coming.
Christmas. Man.
Winter is coming.
I was like, I'm just going to freeform this one. I could do it. I've been doing this podcast for 10 years. I'm not a slave to what I've said in the past.
570 episodes, and we're just like, you're going to wing it.
This is the one I'm going to just do it. I'm going to wing it this time. All right. Jeez. I thought I had that thing. I was like, yeah, man, I'm going. All of a sudden, I was like, hit the speed bump of, this is not the way you're supposed to say it, Tom. Doing it wrong. Shut up, brain. You're not the boss of me. All right. For AV Rant, I'm Tom Andry.
And I'm Rob H. Now go out and listen to something.